for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Very good morning. It really is 6 o'clock. It's Wednesday, the 24th of November. These are the stories that matter to you and to us here on the Great British Breakfast with Simon McCoy and Rosie Wright.
Now, killing a police officer or an emergency worker will soon mean a mandatory life sentence after the government backed Harper's law. Why did it take so long? Email us, gbviews@gbnews.uk.
A damning report finds just 5% of Windrush victims have received compensation 4 years after the scandal broke, with 23 of them dying before getting a payment. Now MPs call for the Home Office to be stripped of its responsibility for the scheme.
Trouble at the top. Downing Street hits back at claims the Prime Minister has lost his grip after a rambling speech to business leaders for some Tory MPs, including one whip claiming letters of no confidence have already been submitted. Is the Prime Minister in trouble?
People in Northern Ireland are being urged by Stormont ministers to work from home where possible in a bid to curb the spread of COVID-19. Is this just the beginning?
An MP says it has to be possible for politics and parenting to mix after being told she cannot sit in the Commons with her 3-month-old son. Do you agree? Should parents be allowed to take their children to work?
OK, we begin with a look at some of the front pages this morning, starting with the Metro. The headline, killed after parking row. A couple were found stabbed to death in their home. Well, their 5- and 6-year-old sons slept upstairs after an alleged dispute over parking in their quiet village. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Stephen and Jenny Chappell.
The Telegraph reports the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine may offer longer-lasting protection than its rivals. And it could be the reason the UK isn't seeing that same level of hospitalisations that we are across Europe, which initially discredited and restricted the use of the jab. AstraZeneca is said to be prepping to release data showing the vaccine offers long-term T-cell immunity for older people after antibodies wane.
There's trouble at the top, at least according to the Eye. Number 10 has insisted the Prime Minister is not unwell, despite an alleged undercurrent of mistrust surrounding Boris Johnson. MPs have told the publication his team can show a, quote, lastminute.com approach to everything.
Let's look at The Independent. It leads with calls from scientific advisors for Boris Johnson to act on high COVID cases. The paper reports that leading experts have warned that ministers have lost the message on the same day the devolved nations, like Northern Ireland, reintroduce COVID measures. Also on the front page, the Pope's tribute there to murdered MP Sir David Amess during the Westminster Cathedral service yesterday.
According to The Guardian, the Treasury are also unhappy with the Prime Minister. They report that figures inside Rishi Sunak's department are calling for a political shake-up at Downing Street after a series of botched announcements, which include the integrated rail time. Also on the front page, 4 years after the Windrush scandal emerged, just 5% of victims have received compensation.
Let's look at The Sun. A royal row. William and Kate have reportedly banned the BBC from screening their Christmas Carol concert amid fury over the Princes and the Press documentary that aired on Monday. The Westminster Abbey event is set now to be shown on ITV, according to the newspaper, and a source has warned things are likely to get a lot worse between the royals and the BBC before they get better.
You're watching The Great British Breakfast. A very good morning to you. Now, a campaign to give mandatory life sentences to the killers of emergency service workers has been backed by the government after what Justice Secretary Dominic Raab calls a remarkable 2 years of campaigning by the widow of Private Constable Andrew Harper. PC Harper was just 28 when he was dragged to his death by a getaway car in August 2019. 3 teenagers were jailed for manslaughter.
Lizzie Harper married PC Harper just 4 weeks before he was killed. She's since campaigned to introduce mandatory life sentences for those who kill on-duty emergency workers while committing a crime. Well, Lizzie says Harper's law will provide extra protection to emergency service workers and that her late husband would be proud to finally see it passed.
Well, it's on a lot of the front pages to discuss that. And other headlines of the day is Albi Amankonda. He's a commentator and co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism. Good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Good morning.
A lot of people saying, well, they assume that it was a mandatory life sentence anyway. Why has it taken so long for this law to be enacted?
I think what we can say is that we're just happy that the law has finally been enacted, and I think the stalwart work of Mrs Harper over the last 2 years of campaigning the government to put this into legislation has been fantastic, and it's really commendable that this has now happened, especially after the pandemic, when a lot of us have really relied on emergency workers to be looking after our families and keeping us all safe.
Many people saying, why did it take so long? And particularly for her and her family, she may feel that justice wasn't served.
Absolutely. Sometimes it does take a shocking incident to shock us into action, and that's exactly what's gone on. Yes, I agree, it probably should have happened before, but I'm just glad that it's happened now.
The murder of a police officer, the murder of a 999 worker, and indeed children, should this perhaps be extended to have certain crimes where life really should mean life?
I think most people would agree that life should always mean life, but we also have to understand that we've got a prison system which costs a lot of money in this country, and it's not very politically acceptable to people for us to be starting to spend more money on prisons. It's not exactly an election-winning policy saying we're going to spend more money on prisons. So I think that's why historically governments have been hesitant to start talking about prisons as something that they want to focus on and invest lots of taxpayers' money in. It's not very popular with voters.
We're going to have more on this story across the day. Let's move on, if we can, to what's happened to the Windrush generation and this latest information that the scheme meant to compensate that generation actually has compounded the injustice. What has gone wrong?
I think a number of things have gone wrong with this Windrush scandal. It really has been a state failure over decades. And I think what was really shocking about when the Windrush scandal happened back in 2018 was that we had condemnation from both sides of the House. It united both Jacob Rees-Mogg and Diane Abbott. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before. I think in terms of the scheme which has been set up afterwards, obviously it's not working as well as it had initially been planned. I think only a fraction of the 15,000 people that could get the money from the scheme have actually received any money.
It's 5%.
Yes, exactly. It's shockingly low. Look, the Home Office needs to do more to engage with the communities affected by the Windrush scandal, and people need to be encouraged to apply for it. But I think that's the problem. People don't trust the Home Office from ethnic minorities in this country, with good reason, because of what's happened with the Windrush scandal. So really, communities need to be engaged with and encouraged to apply for this scheme so they can get the money that they deserve.
I mean, 23 people who would have been entitled to money have now died. Others are getting older, obviously, every day. And if there is this mistrust of the Home Office, perhaps the Home Office should be told, we don't want you to handle this, someone else needs to take this on.
The question would be then which government department would be taking that on. I think the Home Office is the right place for it because ultimately it is an immigration issue and the Home Office deals with immigration matters in this country.
But isn't this just about writing cheques? This seems to be the issue. It's the compensation. The principle is agreed that people are entitled to it. If it's just the writing of a cheque, it's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's not rocket science at all, but just to come back to the point about whether or not it should be the Home Office, it's of course the Home Office that will have all of the records of the people that need to be compensated. The Home Office is the right place for this. We have seen an increase in funding going out to people since Priti Patel took more responsibility for this back in December, and I just hope that the Home Office can engage with more people so that this can be resolved as quickly as possible.
You think it's so mortifying they can't just deal with this quickly?
Look, We know that it takes a very long time sometimes for governments to act on things. It's not always quick. We've seen a change of that with the pandemic. We saw some schemes rolled out very quickly. But historically, government schemes aren't always quick, aren't always efficient, and aren't always effective. I think post-pandemic, we need to learn from what we've been able to implement very quickly and roll that out across government.
Now, let's stay with government and the very top of it. All the papers full of stories about Boris Johnson, claims that he's lost his grip. The hunt is on for the chatty rat who's been briefing journalists from inside the cabinet. What on earth is going on?
I think, as Jeremy Hunt said, it's not been a good month for the Conservative Party, and not just on trivial issues like speeches, also on parliamentary standards.
Whoa. That wasn't a trivial issue. If you've got the Prime Minister losing his way, looking totally befuddled, there's a confidence issue that raises that probably has more traction with the public than anything else. They see someone who has lost his way, literally.
It's interesting that you say traction with the public. I know that Anton Deck sort of imitated the Prime Minister in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I think it was last night or the night before. But what's quite interesting is if you actually look at the polling, Simon, and last week we spoke about how we were down in the polls. This week we're actually back, both Labour and the Conservatives, back on 37% each. So on that question of cut through, I'm not sure if it's necessarily cutting through into voting intention, and ultimately this government will be judged on what it delivers for people in Britain.
The next time Boris Johnson gets up and addresses people will be Prime Minister's questions. Do you think there's going to be a bit of nervousness amongst some of the MPs of how's he going to fare?
I don't think there'll be any nervousness around how the Prime Minister will fare at Prime Minister's questions. He always does his best job that he can at Prime Minister's questions. I don't think the speech yesterday will be making MPs feel any less confident at his ability of delivering at Prime Minister's questions today.
Do you have confidence in him? And really, just watching that speech, did you not feel, oh, this could be going a bit better?
I think everyone who watched the speech knows that it could have gone a lot better than it did, especially in front of the business community, where you need seriousness, you need probity, and you need, a good fact base with which to speak upon. But ultimately, the Prime Minister has, in a sense, always sort of delivered speeches in this sort of blustery, quite with a lot of personality type of way. It's kind of classic of Boris Johnson. So I think perhaps why this has cut through and caught a lot of attention this time is in the wider backdrop of all of the other things that have been going on in government at the moment.
And what it has done in several of the papers is focus on the team he's surrounded himself by and whether there's confidence in them. What is the sense?
There has been, I would say, repeated chatter about the team at number 10 from a lot of people in the media and a lot of people in journalism. Now, I don't know any of the team at number 10, but I do know from what I have heard that they are a very talented bunch of people. But ultimately, I think the main concern is that there isn't necessarily someone in number 10 that the Prime Minister trusts and listens to in the same way that he did with Dominic Cummings. And whether or not that was a good or a bad thing with Dominic Cummings is not.
Well, the sense is his wife is fulfilling that role now.
Yes, that is something which has been heard. But ultimately, I think with the appointment of Ben Gascoigne, I think it was, which is someone who has worked with the Prime Minister in the past and someone he trusts, that may change. So, look, I think the right things are happening. We just need to make sure that the situation improves before it gets any worse and so that the government can continue to deliver for the people of Britain.
One thing that does seem to be just about doing OK is the level of coronavirus, the number of positive infections we're seeing here, compared to other places in Europe. The head of AstraZeneca is suggesting, actually, maybe that jab that Europe all turned against, maybe that's partly responsible.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting story because it's very different from what we were sort of hearing earlier on this year when a lot of us are very worried about the AstraZeneca jab. We were worried about clotting, we were worried about feeling nasty afterwards. We had a lot of the European leaders saying that they weren't going to vaccinate.
Well, Emmanuel Macron particularly, wasn't he? Yeah.
And I personally at the time found that quite shocking. And now perhaps that is maybe biting them a little bit, because what one of the assertions in this article from The Telegraph is that it might be because of the AstraZeneca vaccine and its more longevity that we have lower sort of hospitalisation and death rates than in mainland Europe, where I think the majority of people have got the Pfizer vaccine. So it's a very interesting story. I don't think it's the only reason why we're not suffering from this wave of COVID that the rest of Europe is, but it certainly makes for an interesting factor in the story.
Yeah, it's a theory, isn't it? It just shows the danger of when these situations get politicised in a health crisis.
Absolutely, misinformation is the enemy of everyone, and I was shocked to see European leaders actually engaging in misinformation about the AstraZeneca vaccine earlier on this year.
Well, it was principally Emmanuel Macron with a bit of Angela Merkel, but they are the two most important people in Europe. In
Exactly.
the EU.
Where Macron and Merkel go, the rest of Europe follow, and they did, maybe to their own peril.
You are exuding confidence. You are feeling that the Conservatives have ridden this week and it's onwards and upwards.
It's not been an easy month for the Conservative Party, but ultimately, with the direction that polls are going in, it would indicate that maybe we're coming out of this storm.
Well, Albie, it's always good to see you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's 14 minutes past 6. You're with the Great British Breakfast. Now, the survivors of a bus inferno that killed at least 46 people, including 12 children, scrambled to safety through a window after the vehicle caught fire and crashed in Bulgaria. It happened yesterday morning on a motorway near the village of Bosnek. Local officials say 7 people escaped with burns from the vehicle, which was packed with tourists who were mostly from North Macedonia. The bus slammed into a barrier and went up in flames while returning from Turkey to North Macedonia.
Well, 3 days of national mourning have been declared in Bulgaria and Northern Macedonia. Alexander Stoyanov is a historian from the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. Alexander, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
I mean, an utterly shocking event. How would you assess the mood there this morning?
Well, it's grim in any case because shocking. The French press already labeled it the heaviest, the most deadly car crash in the history of Europe in the past 10 years. Because 45, I think, was the latest number they provided of victims. So tragedy that has a very unfortunate way of things going, because nobody expected something like that just out of the blue, because usually this type of accidents do not happen in this magnitude in Bulgaria. So people are basically shocked. And today, the 24th of November, is a day of national mourning here in Bulgaria due to these events and other stuff that has been going in our country as well.
And what does that involve? What are the next few days going to look like?
Well, basically, it's a traditional mourning like in every other country, with flags taken down, and newspapers probably are going to write a lot about the ongoing investigation that will probably take probably weeks to get a final sense of what has actually happened, because they are working on several versions now. Maybe the driver made the mistake, or maybe there was a technical problem with the bus, but they are just speculating at that point. No clear idea what actually happened. The only thing certain is that 7 people were able to break the back glass of the bus and just escape, while the others were basically burned alive inside, which was horrible. The Bulgarian internal minister said that this is a horrible scene, unlike anything he has seen. And I think it was shocking for everyone who had to work on the scene. And it's shocking for Bulgarians because we just woke up in the morning, news flashing everywhere about so many people dead. It happened like 2 o'clock in the early morning. So basically, Bulgaria woke up to this tragedy, and our thoughts and prayers go to our brothers in Northern Macedonia and their families, because this is so tragic. I mean, it's absurd how things like this may happen, and of course now they will be maybe talking about who's to blame, but I don't think that at this point there is any sense of blaming anyone, because it could be just technical misfortune, and then it just happen.
Yeah, the trouble with that, Alexander, of course, is if it's your son or daughter who's died on that bus, you want to know why, and you want to make sure no families have to go through this again.
Certainly. So I know that Bulgarian authorities will do their best to provide the reason, the actual reason. So my father is a firefighter, and I know that they have a very good service that investigates the reasons for such accidents. So I am 100% certain that Bulgarian firefighting services will find out the actual reason for the accident. They will not hesitate to point out the actual cause, and if anyone should be responsible, then this person or persons will be pointed out for certain. There will be no covering up of anything, that's for sure.
Well, Alexander Stoyanov, it's good to speak to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
It's coming up to 20 minutes past 6. Coming up here on the programme, Northern Ireland is urging people to work from home where they can. Our Northern Ireland reporter will join us and tell us why Stormont is looking to strengthen this plan after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, good morning. Some frost and fog about this morning, especially across southern parts of the UK. Otherwise, a lot of cloud cover and an area of rain is moving south. Now, that rain associated with this cold front will bring about a change in the weather as it pushes south across the UK, but it spends most of the day moving its way south. So some early rain for parts of central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland as well. That rain then moves eventually into northern England and North Wales by the end of the morning. Brighter skies follow for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunny spells, but a cold wind from the north will bring rattle of showers across northern and western Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and it's cold enough for these to be falling as snow over the Scottish higher ground. After any mist and fog clears in the south, a lot of cloud cover, I think, for many through the rest of the day. This weather front essentially divides things north to south, with the cloudier skies in the south being eventually cleared away by the spell of rain. The rain on and off, I think, as it pushes south. Nothing particularly heavy or persistent as it moves into southern parts of the UK during the evening and the early hours of tomorrow. And for most, with the clearing skies behind the weather front, well, it'll be a chilly start to Thursday, a touch of frost in places. Enough of a breeze around coasts and across the far north to prevent a widespread frost. Further showers coming in here as well. But actually, once this cloud gets out of the way, for many it's a blue skies day. It's plenty of crisp late autumn sunshine. A bit more cloud coming into central and eastern parts of the UK by the afternoon. But for many it's looking dry. Around coasts there will still be further showers, especially in the north and down through West Wales into Cornwall. Then the weather turns much more unsettled through Friday and into the weekend. There'll be very strong winds, a yellow warning in force for Friday and Saturday for many parts, and it will turn colder as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. It is 23 minutes past 6. You're watching The Great British Breakfast.
Now, people in Northern Ireland are being urged by Stormont ministers to work from home where possible in a bid to try to curb the spread of coronavirus in the province. The message is going to be strengthened in the coming days following an executive meeting about how to tackle rising infections.
Well, Northern Ireland's infection rate has been climbing over the past week or so to become the highest across the UK and Ireland. Dougie Beattie is GB News Northern Ireland reporter. He joins us now. Dougie, good morning to you.
Good morning from Enniskillen in County Fermanagh, and indeed it's towns like this that sits on the border that may well be hit by some of these rising COVID infection rates, and the executive have rolled out some of their old, I suppose, messaging to try and stop that in its tracks. They've asked those that were working from home during the first lockdown to do so again. They've also brought out the messaging of hand hygiene, wearing masks and social distancing. All of this, of course, is to stop anything really financially bad happening, I suppose, and take the pressure off the NHS. They don't have the furlough levers to pull, they don't have those bounce back loans, and that could cause real problems for them. Also yesterday, the protocol was high again on the agenda, and the Road Hauliers Association was coming to Stormont to talk to them about what was affecting them. The protocol, I suppose, is a bit of a Marmite legislation. You either love it or hate it. The manufacturers quite like it, retailers and pharmaceutical not so much. But nothing moves in Northern Ireland because it is so small. There is only 1.6 to 1.8 million of us here. So an infrastructure with trains and railways is hard to get our goods about. So nothing moves without the road hauliers. And I caught up with one of them yesterday just before they went into a meeting with MLAs.
What we're trying to get across to the MLAs is the take on the current difficulties with the trading between GB and Northern Ireland. We're trying to explain to them the difficulties that we're experiencing and what's coming down the tracks. We see more bureaucracy, more cost, more lost time and greater stress on people that work within the sector. Well, what it was originally, there was free and unfettered trade between GB and Northern Ireland. GB is our biggest marketplace. Now with the trading restrictions through the protocol, that has slowed the logistics chain down. It's costing more money, there's more bureaucracy, and people are leaving the sector because of the increased stress. And that's even with the mitigations and the easements that's currently in place. TSS was set up by the government to help hauliers move product from GB to Northern Ireland. The government has also set up the Movement Assistance Scheme, and it's sponsored by the government, and they're looking at a digital assistance scheme. All those schemes are supported by government currently, and the cost of that isn't being borne by the sector. Whenever the government walks away from those schemes, you will see considerable increase in costs for the sector to try to buy in those services.
Well, you can hear from that, I suppose, that the Hauliers Association are quite amazed that they really haven't been considered or talked to about what is bringing to them what the problems is in and around their industry and how it affects them and ultimately affects the price of goods getting onto our shelves.
Dougie, thank you very much for that. We'll have more from him later this morning.
Now, could Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol have brought us a step closer to a reunited Ireland? As the EU and the UK continue to negotiate changes to the protocol, all this week here on GB News, we're looking at what it is, why it's a problem, and how it's impacted people's lives across Northern Ireland.
The protocol is part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement, of course. It means Northern Ireland is part of the UK, but still in the EU's single market for goods in order to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland. That means more customs checks and paperwork for some goods and animals travelling from Britain to Northern Ireland. Well, to be clear, polling since the Brexit referendum has shown no consistent majority support for reunification. However, the conversations about a potential border are happening amongst those who identify as Irish, as Paul Hawkins has been finding out.
Today is the Ulster Ladies Senior Gaelic Football Final. Armagh in orange are playing Donegal in yellow. 15 players aside, they use a football with their hands or feet to score points by either kicking it in the goal or over the posts.
What's fascinating about this game, Gaelic football, is I didn't realise just how the history of it comes from a Republican Catholic background. And actually, we're in Northern Ireland, but the flags over there, none of them would tell you that. There's the Irish national flag over there, and before the game, everyone faced it, and they sung the Irish national anthem.
Back at the time, whenever the GA was first founded, they wanted, it was a recruitment for, I don't want to go too much into it, but it was recruitment for the Irish Republican Army more than, you know, but that has changed. There used to be a rule where Protestant people couldn't play and members of the armed force couldn't play and members of the police couldn't play. That rule's gone now. I identify myself as Irish because I come from the island of Ireland. I have an Irish passport.
You don't count yourself as British?
No.
No. That's interesting.
No.
Do you count yourself as Irish or Northern Irish or both? Irish. Do you like the idea of it, if it can happen in a peaceful way, of a reunited Ireland?
Yeah.
Some people are talking about a reunited Ireland. Is that a good thing?
Well, we need to have a border poll, have a referendum on it, and put it to the people. Let what the people are saying.
How soon would that happen?
Within the next 5 years, probably. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, it should do. Yeah. But Brexit has brought them conversations further. Because before Brexit, that conversation, wasn't there. So. So it's happening.
Yeah.
So the conversation needs to happen.
And Donegal are losing at half time. Are they going to come back?
No, definitely not. Armagh people, so obviously we're here supporting Armagh, so Armagh's just going to kick on here now, and scoring out 3-7 in the second half, just to keep us all happy.
Yeah, great.
Well, that's just a small sample from our film called Northern Ireland, The Problem with the Protocol. It's going to be released on YouTube on Friday. It's part of Northern Ireland Week, which also we've got Liam Halligan and Darren McCaffrey presenting their special programmes from across the country as part of our ongoing coverage of the negotiations to change the protocol between the EU and the UK.
Now, Hexham in Northumberland has been named Britain's happiest place to live. The Happy at Home Index, now in its 10th year, asked more than 21,000 people across Britain how they feel about where they live. The Market Down also came out top in 2019.
Well, the Mayor of Hexham, Derek Kennedy, joins us now. Very good morning to you. What makes it so wonderful?
Well, welcome to Happy Hexham. Hexham is a wonderful place. It's a small town, 12,000 people. The key thing is the community spirit. Everybody looks after each other. We have a small market town, centre, and everybody just congregates, converses, helps one another, and comes together as a single unit.
Yeah, that word happy. I mean, how do you define happy? I mean, do you go down whistling the street every morning, just go around hugging everybody? How do you define happiness?
Well, a good question. I think it's all about the community spirit. I mean, what we did, when the COVID had hit us very hard and lots of things couldn't take place, such as the community groups. The first thing we did, and I was elected as mayor in May, was we put some music on in the bandstand. We paid for it as a Hexham Town Council, and it was a way of enticing people to come back out, to come to our town, and come to our bandstand and actually sit and actually listen to some live music. And it was great. But for every during the summer, we had over 200 people come in every session that we played. We had an event the other day in the marketplace, our 800-year-old marketplace, and we had a band playing there on Friday night, and we had 650 people turn up, and we had a great time. We had an impromptu party in the town, and it's just that community spirit of people just wanting to be together and enjoying time together.
Well, some of the pictures you've just shown do look quite beautiful. Just to explain to us, as the mayor, can you sort of capitalise on this? Is this an opportunity?
Absolutely. Tourism is a big thing. We're not far from Hadrian's Wall, so you've got the drama of that main stretch between Newcastle and Carlisle. We're the main town for the World Heritage Sites of Hadrian's Wall. We've got some fantastic things around us. We've got like super green, lovely area. We've got the Mighty Tyne that runs right next to our town. You know, we've got loads of rowing clubs going on there. You know, so we encourage tourism. It's a fabulous place to live. And actually, some of our estate agents are actually saying since COVID hit and people are starting to move out of the cities, is that a lot of people are actually moving here from south of Birmingham up to Northumberland and up to Hexham, because they see it as just they want to start again and have a different lifestyle.
Come on, be honest, you don't want too many of them coming there, do you? That's the point of Hexham, is you've got a lovely, relatively small area of nice people. You don't want people coming in from outside.
We welcome everybody. We're welcome in town. That's why we're happy. You know, we welcome everybody. You know, everybody has a chance to play a part in our town, and we've got some wonderful people from all over the world who actually reside in Hexham, and all that different colour and culture that comes to Hexham just helps it make a better place.
Go on holiday. Mr. Mayor, where do you go on holiday?
Where do I go on holiday? I haven't been anywhere on holiday for the last 2 years. I'm holidaying at home.
Well, why would you? Why would you? You live in the happiest place in the UK. Why would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully you can hold on to the title. That's the plan?
Absolutely, yeah. I think this is us going to take control of this title from now. We've won it 2 years out of the last 3. We've got some great plans for Hexham. You know, we've got the farmers market, the Christmas farmers market coming up very soon, really popular. So we welcome people to come to our town and enjoy a really traditional Christmas here. We've got the magnificent Hexham Abbey that overlooks the marketplace. Our marketplace is 800 years old next year, and we'll be having a big event for that also. So Hexham's a place where it's happening, guys. Come along.
Oh, Derek, it's like Disney World, isn't it? Is everybody nice to you and say, have a nice day as you walk past?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they love me.
Well, congratulations, and may it long be the case. Derek Kennedy, Mayor of the happiest place, Hexham.
I have to say, it does sound brilliant. It does seem to be that small seems to be part of the secret of being happy, rather than big and bustling.
Yeah. Well, you're not happy.
No, I'm very happy.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We're in a happy place. In fact, I'm surprised we didn't win it this year.
Yeah. It's 25 to 7. Coming up on the programme, the world's youngest Dragon's Den investor is going to invest £500 million into UK startups. We'll look at why after this.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. It is 6:38.
Now, the world's youngest Dragon's Den investor has already invested in 700 British businesses and is now turning her attention to UK startups. Michelle Romanow, co-founder and president of the world's largest e-commerce investor, Clearco, wants to invest £500 million in 1,000 UK startups before the end of the year.
Well, the company will use an artificial intelligence algorithm to find and fill the 300 remaining investment opportunities, seeking to prioritise small and medium-sized businesses from women and people from ethnic minority backgrounds.
To tell us more about this investment project is Sarah Clark, Head and Chief Growth Officer at Clearco. So this is brilliant news for you. How do you identify which businesses are the ones that should get the investment?
Well, it's quite a straightforward process for the entrepreneurs and founders that we fund. They connect up the various different apps they use to support their business, be that, say, Shopify or PayPal or Adyen or others that process their transactions and give us access to their transaction history. As Simon said, we run that through an AI algorithm that helps us to forecast what their future growth is likely to look like once we have extended capital to them. We then automatically generate an offer of capital and the amount of repayment. And we take that repayment as a proportion of their daily online sales. And the wonderful thing for an e-commerce entrepreneur is, therefore, if they don't make a sale, they don't make a payment. Unlike a traditional loan, there isn't a set repayment schedule. Also, we agree upfront a flat fixed fee. So instead of an interest rate, say if we're advancing you £100,000, you pay us back £106,000. So you have that certainty. So as I say, it's quite a quick process. We aim to have money in people's banks within kind of 48, 72 hours. So it really gives them that flexibility to move quickly and adjust to market conditions.
And become an investment.
We, unlike traditional venture capitalists, we do not take equity in the business. The entrepreneur retains 100% ownership of their business. We are solely taking a proportion of their revenues in order to repay the advance. So it's not classified as an equity investment.
And the emphasis on underrepresented groups, where does that, why that?
Well, it's quite interesting, actually. Particularly, I say this as a woman, that wasn't the intent. Because our investment decisions are based solely on the data, we don't ask when you connect up your accounts. We don't know if you're a man, you're a woman. We don't know what your ethnicity is. We don't know what your educational background is. It is pure. Our investment decisions are based purely on your business data, and it's happy, perhaps not accident, but certainly a happy outcome that our data has shown that people of all walks of life in all parts of the UK are starting and building wonderful businesses. So instead, we didn't actually set out at the outset to say, oh, we're going to fund more women founders, or we're going to fund people of different ethnicities, et cetera. It's solely that these people, when they are given access to capital, are growing wonderful businesses. And as I say, in the relatively short period of time that we've been operating here in the UK, we've seen that more than 70% of the businesses that we funded sit outside of London and South East, which is the kind of traditional venture capital heartland. So it's really gratifying to know that we're helping these entrepreneurs who might not traditionally get access to funding, helping grow their business and grow the British economy as well.
Yeah, I've been looking at some of the businesses already. You've got pet products, sports equipment, packaging and shipping. Lots of people decided to go out on their own over the last 18 months or so. Is now a good time to be thinking about a startup? Sort of how healthy is that business model looking right now?
Well, certainly based on the data that we have, it's very healthy. Particularly, so our as you've alluded to, some of the many businesses that we fund, we focus on direct-to-consumer e-commerce businesses. And as I'm sure you and your viewers are well aware, e-commerce, online shopping has boomed throughout the pandemic. And actually, quite frankly, in the UK prior to the pandemic. One of the trends that we've seen in our data is throughout the pandemic, a shift in, you mentioned, founders setting up businesses, but also the consumer behavior. People really are keen to support smaller businesses, local businesses, shopping small, shopping local. I think that would suggest it's a very good time to set up a business. That being said, I think we're all fairly aware of the intense, both emotional, physical, and mental kind of investment that entrepreneurs put into their businesses. So, I think it's not something to be undertaken lightly. And certainly if you believe you have, a strong fit for a particular customer issue or solution, you see a real gap in the market, then I'm not sure there's ever been a better time to set up an online business.
Sarah, £500 million invested in 1,000 SMEs. There must be some rubbish out there, though. There must be some people who try and pull a fast one. I mean, what's the worst pitch you've ever seen?
Well, this is the interesting thing. As I mentioned, unlike traditional venture capital and possibly, as you mentioned in the intro, one of our founders, Michelle Romanow, it was the youngest ever dragon on Dragon's Den in Canada. And so she's had to sit through more than her fair share of pitches, some of which I'm sure were slightly questionable. And maybe as a result of that, this isn't a question of pitching your business. It is solely based on the data. So there is no human, it's the algorithms that is evaluating that data and how your business has grown. It's not someone passing judgment on you as an individual or your business idea. It's the proof is in the pudding in terms of how your business has performed. So sadly, I can't share with you any, horror stories in terms of pitches.
What a shame, because if I was pitching a business, I think I'd probably be there in the list of the most embarrassing ones you've ever seen.
Is there a bit of a risk of taking the person out of the process and leaving a computer to work out who to invest in? Could some opportunities go missed?
I'm sure that is a possibility. I think one of the not challenges, but one of the issues that we have, you need to have a good 6 months worth of trading history for us to be able to put it through the algorithm. So someone who set up shop tomorrow, we wouldn't be able to fund until May of next year. So we aren't likely to be able to catch, the next big thing that just was launched last week. So you're absolutely right there. I think there isn't necessarily a perfect investment model. So everything has its upsides and downsides. But what I find quite gratifying is because of this focus on data and taking the human bias out of the investment decision, we do see that actually we are funding a much broader community of entrepreneurs, which I think, again, suggests that these people are certainly capable of both setting up and running very successful businesses, and they deserve the chance to get access to funding to grow them more. So it's lovely that we can help and support that.
Sure. Sarah, with that global perspective, how are the Brits? Are we good at selling ourselves? We've always thought we always had really good ideas, but we're a little too embarrassed to push them. Is that an old-fashioned view of us?
I think possibly. I would certainly say when it comes to e-commerce, that the UK punches above its weight. As I mentioned, prior to the pandemic, even before the boom in online commerce that we've seen throughout the pandemic, e-commerce was 3 times as penetrated into total retail in the UK as it is in North America. So there it was 10% of all retail happened online. Here it was 30%. And I think Brits have really embraced the digital revolution and have been really creative about how to sell different kinds of products and services online. You mentioned that, Holly, that you've seen some of our businesses, and there are truly some wonderful ones. There's one that's based in Birmingham called Nourished, which creates personalized vitamin gummies. So you can address all of your kind of health concerns, and they're 3D printed gummies, and they personalize it to you and your health needs and send it out to you. And it's just, to me, it's just amazing the creativity that people in this country have and their ability to identify a gap in the market and really deliver something against that. So I think as I've been living in this country for 21 years, and I'm very proud of what Britain has achieved. Perhaps we don't toot our own horns enough, but there certainly is a tremendous amount of innovation that happens here.
A 3D printed gummy. I mean, you lost me at D, frankly, but how does that work?
Well, you go onto their site, and you can either kind of take one of their pre-mixed gummies and say, you know, that say addresses women's health or bone strength or what have you, or you can go through a questionnaire and say, you know, these are the things that I am concerned about and want to have in my vitamin. You can also choose the flavor of gummy, and then it comes out. They're really cool. They come out in kind of hexagonal shapes with little kind of stripes through them with the different vitamins in, and they're wonderful, I have to say. And it keeps you from having to take 27 different tablets in the morning. You can just have a yummy gummy and off you go.
That's the best pitch I've seen. I'm in. There we are. Isn't that how it works? I don't know. Sarah, it's fascinating. It's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much, and good luck. I hope you find many, many more small businesses in this country to invest in. Great, thank you.
I'd be really nervous of pitching to you, Simon. I would never know when we were in the serious mode, when we were in silly.
If I started yawning or if I just fell asleep, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, 10 minutes to 7. Lots to come on the Great British Breakfast. We're going to take you through the front pages and keep you up to speed with all of the stories, including AstraZeneca. They say that actually maybe their jab means we're not seeing the same wave of cases that we are in Europe. That and much more to come.
After the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, good morning. Some frost and fog about this morning, especially across southern parts of the UK. Otherwise, a lot of cloud cover. And an area of rain is moving south. Now, that rain associated with this cold front will bring about a change in the weather as it pushes south across the UK, but it spends most of the day moving its way south, so some early rain for parts of central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland as well. That rain then moves eventually into northern England and North Wales by the end of the morning. Brighter skies follow for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunny spells, but a cold wind from the north will bring rattle of showers across northern and western Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and it's cold enough for these to be falling as snow over the Scottish higher ground. After any mist and fog clears in the south, a lot of cloud cover, I think, for many through the rest of the day. This weather front essentially divides things north to south, with the cloudier skies in the south being eventually cleared away by the spell of rain. The rain on and off, I think, as it pushes south. Nothing particularly heavy or persistent as it moves into southern parts of the UK during the evening and the early hours of tomorrow. And for most, with the clearing skies behind the weather front, well, it'll be a chilly start to Thursday, a touch of frost in places. Enough of a breeze around coasts and across the far north to prevent a widespread frost. Further showers coming in here as well. But actually, once this cloud gets out of the way, for many it's a blue skies day. It's plenty of crisp late autumn sunshine. A bit more cloud coming into central and eastern parts of the UK by the afternoon. But for many it's looking dry. Around coast there will still be further showers, especially in the north and down through West Wales into Cornwall. Then the weather turns much more unsettled through Friday and into the weekend. There'll be very strong winds, a yellow warning in force for Friday and Saturday for many parts, and it will turn colder as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk. Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back to the Great British Breakfast. Now, around 2 million universal credit claimants could be £1,000 a year better off under new rules that come into force today to ensure more people can benefit before Christmas.
But sadly, there's still the possibility that not every family in Britain can afford to put presents under the tree this year, with figures showing that child poverty is set to rise due to a combination of pandemic job cuts and rises in energy bills and the cost of living.
But in Yorkshire, child poverty has increased, with a quarter of children now growing up in poverty in Barnsley. One local business, though, has made it their mission that no child in the town goes without a gift this year. Our reporter Anna Riley joins us now live from Barnsley. Anna, this sounds brilliant. Just tell us more.
Good morning, Rosie and Simon. Yes, I'm in Barnsley this morning. I've been speaking to a local business owner, Tony. He owns Tony's Barbershop in Barnsley, and he's made it his mission that children this year in this area don't go without a present. You've mentioned the changes to universal credit, but I have been speaking to an MP in the area, Stephanie Peacock. She's the MP for Barnsley East, and she still says in this area with no job security, with 0 hours contracts, and that change to universal credit with the removal of the £20, families are still affected. And this is what she had to say.
A quarter of kids are growing up in child poverty in Barnsley, and in some parts of the area that rises to over 50%. And it's an absolute tragedy for those young people who are growing up in poverty, who may struggle to have a meal of an evening, who struggle to have the heating on. And if you look at those statistics in some more detail, the majority of those kids are in an in-work household. So one of their parents at least is going out to work, usually working incredibly hard, but is not earning enough to pay the bills. They're really struggling, and I think that, as we go into winter with the kind of cost of living crisis, with bills going up, energy prices rising, it's really tough. I visit the local food bank regularly and I talk to them, and they've seen a tripling in recent years of demand. There's no doubt that the cut to universal credit has had a big impact. So the 8,000 households were affected across the Barnsley borough. And if you've ever lived on a budget, that once you get given a rise, that's kind of baked into your everyday spending. And so it was a real blow for people to see what is effectively a 20% cut to their income. And so we've had a huge amount of contact from people, both phoning up and writing to us. And obviously as a Labour Party, we campaigned and voted to have that U-turned. I think there's a number of things. Of course, people want to see a wage rise, but they want to see secure employment. Too often we have 0 hours contracts. Too often we have insecure work. 30 years ago, 30,000 men worked down the pit. It was difficult, it was dangerous, but it was secure and reasonably paid. Now, the biggest private sector employer is ASOS, the distribution centre. We've got a lot of insecure work. It is not well paid. So we need investment in good, well-paid jobs. We need to see investment in education. I was a teacher before I did this job, and the power of education, of giving people a good start in life and allowing them to sort of progress, is really, really important. We've got a fantastic community spirit across Barnsley, and we have for many years, and I think the toy appeal is a really great example of how local people want to support each other and want to make sure they can help each other, particularly at Christmas.
Stephanie there mentioning the need for secure jobs and that impact of universal credit. Obviously, we've had that announcement today about universal credit, meaning that 500 families could be better off by Christmas. So they are getting presents, they're having a Christmas meal, they're having that normal family time. But on the universal credit and the cuts, a government spokesperson did give me this statement. They said, we're committed to supporting families and people on low incomes. They said work is the best route out of poverty, and the changes that we have made to universal credit will see nearly 2 million of the lowest paid better off by around £1,000 a year. The most vulnerable, including those who can't work, can get additional help with essential costs through our new £50 million support fund. So on the back of this, a better Christmas for some, but in this area in Barnsley, there's a real community spirit, people coming together to make sure that no child in this area goes without on Christmas Day.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much. And Anna's going to be with us this morning on the Great British Breakfast.
Just having a look at some of the papers as well. I've got the Daily Star gets the front page best coverage. This is after one of those Insulate Britain protesters who went to prison. Apparently, they're crowdfunding for his rent. He can't pay his rent while he's in prison. And the Daily Star's take on it is, ha 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 ha. There is not much sympathy for Insulate Britain in the Daily Star this morning. Describes him as a moron, jailed for causing chaos on Britain's roads, wants you to pay for his rent. What a joke.
I mean, I bet some people will donate. We should have a look this morning. They will. They will.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be no donations from you, and I expect probably not from you either. But, you know, maybe he's being showing some entrepreneurial spirit there. How's he going to pay his rent while he's in jail? He shouldn't have gone to jail in the first place.
Sorry? What? Really?
Well,
I hope he's warm in there. I hope it's nicely insulated.
It may be rather cold. Let us know. We'd always love to hear from you on views on any topics. How much you'll be donating?
If there was a red button for what went on in this studio while we were off air, I think we'd get a lot more viewers.
Maybe we would. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
See you in a moment.
Well, a very good morning. It is Wednesday, the 24th of November, 7 o'clock. These are the stories that matter to you and to us on the Great British Breakfast today with Simon McCoy and me, Rosie Wright.
Now, killing a police officer or emergency worker will soon mean a mandatory life sentence after the government finally backed Harper's law. But why did it take so long? Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
A report finds just 5% of Windrush victims have received compensation 4 years after the scandal broke. 23 of those people died before they got a payment. MPs are calling for the Home Office to be stripped of its responsibility for the scheme.
Trouble at the top. Downing Street hits back at claims the Prime Minister has lost his grip after a rambling speech to business leaders, with some Tory MPs, including one whip, claiming letters of no confidence have already been submitted. Well, is the Prime Minister really in trouble?
People in Northern Ireland are being urged by Stormont ministers to work from home where possible in a bid to curb the spread of COVID-19. Is it just the beginning?
An MP says it has to be possible for politics and parenting to mix after being told she can't sit in the Commons with her 3-month-old son. But do you agree? Should parents be allowed to take their children into work?
Well, a very good morning and welcome back to the programme. Now, the AstraZeneca CEO has suggested the rollout of his vaccine could be why the UK's avoided the latest COVID wave in Europe. Pascal Scorio says AstraZeneca may offer longer-lasting immunity against coronavirus than other vaccines, and that the decision to give the vaccine to older people in Britain could be one of the reasons that we're not seeing as many hospitalisations relative to Europe, despite the fact that we've still got a high number of COVID cases.
Well, Dr. Matthew Bates is an Associate Professor of Microbiology at the University of Lincoln and joins us now. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Rosie.
Now, it's great of you to join us. Does this make sense to you on the scientific side that the different make of vaccine could have this sort of impact?
Well, the different makes of vaccine do work in slightly different ways, but I think I don't find it that convincing myself. And Pascal Soriot himself said that there's no proof of this and stated that it was very much conjecture on his part.
So do you have theories as to why it looks like we have got a better handle on this right now than, let's say, Germany?
I think one of the challenges is we all look at these dashboards and see these lines moving across the screen for different countries. But in epidemiology, things are always much more complicated than that. And there's always more things that are informing on what's going on. So if you look at what's going on in Germany, you get different vaccination rates in different regions, for example. So when you see that average line for the whole country, there could be different things going on in different places. It's also interesting if you look at America or France to a degree as well, you don't see such a massive effect there, and they've had widespread use of the RNA vaccines as well. So I think that there's probably a bit of marketing going on here. It's pretty well accepted that the Chadox vaccine has a slightly sort of lower efficacy than the RNA ones. And indeed, we're boosting in the UK with the RNA vaccines for that reason. So I think that he's probably doing his job, which is, promoting one of his products.
And Matthew, you can understand him being a bit sore, can't you? Because we all remember, particularly Emmanuel Macron, but also Angela Merkel, casting doubt on its efficacy, particularly for older people. Well, that may now be coming round to bite them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to remember the history of this winding road myself, but my memory was back in February or March, they actually halted the use of the Chadox vaccine in younger people, not in older people, because they were worried about blood clots and, as an adverse event, albeit a rare one. So I'm not quite sure where that story's come from, but maybe I've missed one of the turns in the story since between March and now. I'm not sure.
And I was working in France for when this row developed, and the rules changing all the time as to who was actually eligible in the country to have the AstraZeneca jab. At one point, it was a very narrow field. If we just look at France, though, for an example, they've made quite harsh restrictions on the population, so that if you want to go out for dinner or for a restaurant, you've got to show your kind of COVID pass or a negative test. Do you think, actually, at essence of this, it is just the more people who've got the jab, the better the hold the country has over the virus?
Yeah. So you can see Germany's, mortality rate and infections are kind of tracking up at the moment, and France is tracking behind that. And I'd say that probably France has had the most strict social distancing and public health measures in place, followed by Germany and then us. So, that kind of makes sense in a way. Germany's mortality rate is only just it's just overtaken ours, but I mean, they're both very similar at the moment.
And the booster jab is clearly crucial in all this.
Yeah, the booster seems to be really, really important. But I guess it's whether you're looking at a number of infections and stemming transmission within your community, or looking at those severe outcomes such as hospitalization and death. And I'd probably side with a lot of commentators who have said that there'd be more benefit globally for getting more shots 1 and 2 into more arms than doing 3 shots here. But, I can understand that national governments, their primary duty is to their own people, and they can see that that's, nationally seems a sensible thing to do.
Thank you so much for talking to us, and particularly trying to wrestle out. It's the front page of the Telegraph, the comments that's been made by the AstraZeneca CEO, and talking us through your perspective on the findings. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for coming this morning. Now, let's have a look at what else is going on today. And the government's announced that killing a police officer or 999 worker is to be punished with a mandatory life sentence. The law change marks the end of a 2-year campaign by Lissy Harper, after her husband, police officer Andrew Harper, was killed in the line of duty while answering a late-night burglary call. The so-called Harper's Law is expected to make it into the statute books via an amendment to the existing police crime sentencing and courts bill, meaning it would likely become law early next year.
Now, a man accused of ramming his car into Christmas parade goers in Wisconsin in the States is going to be charged with 6 deaths after another victim, a child, died. Darrell Brooks wept as he was arraigned in court with 5 counts of intentional homicide. Prosecutors said further charges would be filed. Police say he drove in a zigzag pattern to hit as many people as possible at the parade.
A post-mortem has confirmed that a mother of two killed in Somerset died of multiple stab wounds. Jennifer Chappell and her husband Stephen were both found with serious injuries outside their home on Sunday, while their two children were asleep upstairs. The adults died at the scene. Nearby residents told PA News the couple had previously been involved in rows about parking with a neighbour. Two men have been arrested in connection with the incident.
Police have arrested two men on suspicion of murder after a body was found in the hunt for a missing teenager. Bobby Ann McLeod disappeared on Saturday. The alarm was raised after the 18-year-old failed to meet friends on a night out in Plymouth. Well, Devon and Cornwall police say a 24 and 26-year-old are in custody.
An MP says it has to be possible for politics and parenting to mix after being told she cannot sit in the Commons with her 3-month-old son. Labour's Stella Creasy was informed it was now against the rules to bring a child to a debate at Westminster Hall after doing so yesterday. She said the change was news to me after attending debates with a baby in the past, and she's called for a review. The House of Commons said it was in communication with Ms Creasy.
A rare manuscript by Albert Einstein has sold at auction for nearly £10 million. Well, dating back to 1913, its value was originally estimated at £1.6 to £2.5 million. It's one of only two known documents showing his approach to his famous theory of relativity. Surprisingly, the handwritten script reveals that even Einstein occasionally made mistakes.
In sport, managerless Manchester United booked their place in the knockout stage of the Champions League with a 2-0 win at Villarreal. Goals from Cristiano Ronaldo and Jadon Sancho gave caretaker boss Michael Carrick a win 2 days after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked. The victory put United through to the knockout stage with a game to spare.
Holders Chelsea confirmed their qualification for the last 16 with an impressive 4-0 win over Juventus in Group H at Stamford Bridge. But the Blues lost N'Golo Kante to a knee injury in the first half. Well, Ben Chilwell was also forced off with a knee problem following a coming together with Adrian Rabiot in the second.
Let's have a brief look at the weather. Today, rain will sink southeastwards across northern areas, clearing to sunny spells and showers, these wintry over higher ground. Drier further south with patchy cloud and the odd shower.
Now it's 10 minutes past 7 here on the Great British Breakfast, and the changes to the Universal Credit Scheme proposed in the Chancellor's autumn budget last month, will they come into effect today? These changes include universal credit workers receiving an extra 8 pence per pound earned. About 2 million people will benefit by an average of £1,000 following the move, the government said. And here to debate the accuracy of this assessment is friend of the show, David Buick, market commentator at Accuracy Exchange. David, talk us through it then.
Well, hang on. How are you, first of all? Because last time we appeared, we should have put out our health warning. How's your face? Because you fell over and banged your face.
I'm fine. I'm recovered remarkably quickly. Nice of you to ask. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Right. So, do these figures stack up?
That's a really hard question, Simon, because, I think this whole question of universal credit and whether it's fair or not has been stacking up for months and years and years. And okay, so we're going to see 2 million people benefit from £1,000 a year, but then they're talking about 3.6 million people not benefiting, in fact, losing money as a result of which. And it's very interesting to note that while we've tried to get this come under one roof, it's created enormous problems. The £20 a week that was withdrawn recently at the budget, I think was a real hammer blow for many people. But what I think we don't have time for, which is really sad for me, is the fact that even though we hear that there are something like 1.1 million job vacancies in this country, and we still have 1.3 million unemployed, you'd have thought there would be some cross-fertilisation and be able to fill those jobs. Well, even here in the People's Republic of Hammersmith and Fulham down here, you speak to the shopkeepers, sorry, short staff. What do you mean short staff? And they say, well, a lot of people have come in here and saying, sorry, I can't afford to come back because I'm going to lose my universal credit. This, to me, is just wrong. And we need to have the drains up to make sure that universal credit goes to those people who really need it, Rosie, and not to people who are freeloading, for want of a better expression. I know I sound a bit draconian, but the fact remains is these anomalies are here and they need to be sorted out because there are people who are not getting enough And there are people who are filling their boots with money that they frankly do not deserve.
Can we talk about this? Traders are betting against the pound. Why?
Andrew Bailey received, as you've highlighted in your wonderful show regularly, has been the subject of severe criticism over why didn't you raise interest rates at the last MPC meeting? And everybody, I mean, to be honest with you, the foreign exchange market is the most liquid market in the world. And I'm sure, having been part of it myself, I'm entitled to say what I'm about to say. It's full of vagabonds and spivs. And they have taken out a huge position on the fact that interest rates would rise, and therefore the pound should become stronger. Instead of languishing around 1.33 to the pound against the dollar, it should be somewhere around 1.36 or something of that nature. Well, Andrew Bailey never said that the date that he was going to raise interest rates. And what surprised people is that the day before, we got very, very good employment data, which suggested that he would be given the excuse to raise interest rates, because there's no question that inflation, if it's officially 4.2% or whatever it is at the moment, going to 5% by the end of the year, if not 6%, that there was a very strong case for raising interest rates. And he said, well, hang on a minute, this is transitory, and we believe that inflation will be under control within the next 3 or 4 months, 5 months, which I think looks like it's not going to happen because of the supply chain, which just doesn't seem to be ironing things out. And because of the fact that we'd seen higher taxation, that we'd seen mortgage rates go up, that we'd seen the price of food go up, that Andrew Bailey said, well, look, we can't kill momentum in the recovery process. So if people have got less disposable income, I don't think it's the right time if we really believe that inflation will be under control in 6 months. Well, I'm afraid whether they like it or not, the spivs and vagabonds got buried. And, I'm deeply sorry, but, you live by the sword and you die by it. And I've got no more to say on the subject. I mean, these things, the best laid plans go wrong. And this one, for some of the people who bet against the pound, I'm afraid, on a temporary basis, got it wrong.
Right. Well, let's talk about the United States and oil, because they're releasing 50 million barrels from their reserves. What's that going to do?
They hope, Simon, that it will ease the inflationary threats that we've got at the moment. I mean, they are really severe. When you consider that I think it was the 11th of May 2020, oil got down to $11 a barrel, which we knew was a fairly false price, but it just indicated that the world's economy was on its knees. And as a result of which, we saw it creep up slowly, 25, 35, 40, 50, 60, 70. We got up to $85 a barrel. And together with the hijinks caused by people like President Putin in Russia, who has limited the supply of gas, you've got the inflated cost of energy, which is really the most inflationary thing that we've got at the moment. And I think that what Biden is saying, that if we could release across the world, and other countries such as Korea, China, and India are trying to do the same, to release some of their storage of this stuff. And the United States is saying they'd like to release 50 million barrels. It should bring the price of the oil down. Well, temporarily, it came down, I think, from 82 down to about $77 a barrel. But it's bounced again up to 82. So the effect of good intentions has still got a long way to filter through, if you understand what I mean. But I think the reason is to try and get the cost of doing business, industry and commerce, and i.e. inflation, down as quickly as possible.
Let's move a little bit closer to home if we can, David. Earlier we were speaking to the mayor of Hexham, because apparently it's the happiest place to live in the UK, and he was telling us all about their Christmas market that's coming up. But apparently our Christmas markets are going to be smaller, less European this year.
Well, I think that's right. But Hexham's also got the most beautiful racecourse in England. It's far more important. But no, it really endorses what a lovely place it is. And to go on from there, basically, something like 10,000 people have not returned to what they call the town markets, which even big cities like Manchester have done tremendously well, particularly things like German stalls and that sort of thing. You've got a wonderful illustration on your screen there, which is absolutely how it is. Well, people just simply are not coming back from Eastern Europe. The ability, because of the supply chain, to get people to deliver the kinds of goods and chattels that we want, the sort of meats and confectionery and other things that just isn't happening. as a result of which, but on the other side of the coin, we do hear that some of the smaller towns are very upbeat about the possibility of their small stalls because people love the community in the area they live. And they're going to try and make sure that they are very happy places where people can buy affordable presents. But I think what we used to see in Manchester and big cities like that are these huge international, almost like bazaars. They're just not going to happen because they haven't got the staff.
I was driving through central London yesterday. There's a wonderful one in Trafalgar Square. There's one in Leicester Square. I mean, they're around.
They are, Simon, but there again, I think we're reverting back to it's London and the rest. And this is where I think, the whole thing of the government of levelling up is, it's a wonderful idea, but it just ain't happening. And London is, frankly, the fulcrum of life for international people visiting this country. And they have to be weaned, for want of a better expression, to say there are other wonderful cities and countries and towns and places and villages throughout the whole of the United Kingdom. And it's still a dream and not a reality. And until it becomes a reality, we're going to have this, what I call misfit.
A lot of trees, right? Have you got your tree up?
No, next week.
Oh, is it? Is that when we should do it?
Grandchildren here for...
Oh, okay.
Well, no, each to their own, really. I mean, I must say, anybody who doesn't believe in Father Christmas in this household, in SW6, gets the elbow, because that's what life's all about. And we dream for this very special scene that we get, and I just wouldn't be without it. I think it's the most wonderful time of year. It's all about children, but it's all about entering into the spirit of it.
So that image you have of the Grinch, that's not right?
No. All I need is the white whiskers, but with this mouth, I can't do it, you see. Because I'm a benign old fool, and I love it, and the kids are wonderful.
I have to say, Simon, yesterday you accused me of being Scrooge. David is the Grinch. I think the person maybe we could be looking at is maybe you, Mr. McCoy.
Oh, David knows I'm fun. Don't you, David?
He's an old softy.
There we go. He's known me a while. David, always good to see you. Good to see the recovery is underway, and we'll see you soon.
It's 20 minutes past 7 here on the Great British Breakfast. Coming up here on the programme, Northern Ireland is urging people to work from home where they can. Our Northern Ireland reporter is going to tell us why Stormont is looking to strengthen this plan after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, good morning. Some frost and fog about this morning, especially across southern parts of the UK. Otherwise, a lot of cloud cover, and an area of rain is moving south. Now, that rain associated with this cold front will bring about a change in the weather as it pushes south across the UK, but it spends most of the day moving its way south, so some early rain for parts of central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland as well. That rain then moves eventually into northern England and North Wales by the end of the morning. Brighter skies follow for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunny spells, but a cold wind from the north will bring rattle of showers across northern and western Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and it's cold enough for these to be falling as snow over the Scottish higher ground. After any mist and fog clears in the south, a lot of cloud cover, I think, for many through the rest of the day. This weather front essentially divides things north to south, with the cloudier skies in the south being eventually cleared away by the spell of rain. The rain on and off, I think, as it pushes south. Nothing particularly heavy or persistent as it moves into southern parts of the UK during the evening and the early hours of tomorrow. And for most, with the clearing skies behind the weather front, well, it'll be a chilly start to Thursday, a touch of frost in places. Enough of a breeze around coasts and across the far north to prevent a widespread frost. Further showers coming in here as well. But actually, once this cloud gets out of the way, for many it's a blue skies day. It's plenty of crisp late autumn sunshine. A bit more cloud coming into central and eastern parts of the UK by the afternoon. But for many it's looking dry. Around coast there will still be further showers, especially in the north and down through West Wales into Cornwall. Then the weather turns much more unsettled through Friday and into the weekend. There'll be very strong winds, a yellow warning in force for Friday and Saturday for many parts, and it will turn colder as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Don't you have fun? We're having fun. We do have fun.
We definitely do.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Great British Breakfast.
Well, we're having fun.
We are, yes. It's 25 minutes past 7. People in Northern Ireland are being urged by Stormont ministers to work from home where possible in a bid to curb, unfortunately it said all morning, in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus, but what we mean is in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus in the province. The message is to be strengthened, though, apparently in the coming days, following an executive meeting about how to tackle rising infections.
Northern Ireland's infection rate has been climbing over the past week or so to become the highest across the UK and Ireland. Well, Dougie Beattie, GBNews Northern Ireland reporter, joins us now. And Dougie, what's the sense there about how severe this particular wave is?
Well, I don't know how severe it is, but they're trying to get in front of it because, of course, they don't have the same financial levers that they had the first time round. No furlough, no bounce-back loans and no grants for places like this market town behind me to recover from it. So in trying to do that, they've rolled out the same messaging. Those that are working from home the first time round, please do so again. Hand sanitising, mask wearing and, of course, the vaccination message coming through to them. All of that in the mix with the protocol, and it is also causing its own problems as we've been reporting on. And yesterday it was the turn of the Road Haulage Association, who came to storm out to put their case forward. Northern Ireland is a very small place, only about 1.6 million people, so you can imagine the infrastructure here is very small. No big train lines, etc. They do have, but it doesn't stop at as many places, it doesn't go to as many places, so we are heavily dependent on lorries and to get our goods about this province. The Road Hauliers Association believe that they aren't being listened to and they are at the sharp end of this, and yesterday they went and spoke to MLAs to put their case forward.
What we're trying to get across to the MLAs is the take on the current difficulties with the trading between GB and Northern Ireland. We're trying to explain to them the difficulties that we're experiencing and what's coming down the tracks. We see more bureaucracy, more cost, more lost time and greater stress on people that work within the sector. Well, what it was originally, there was free and unfettered trade between GB and Northern Ireland. GB is our biggest marketplace. Now with the trading restrictions through the protocol, that has slowed the logistics chain down. It's costing more money, there's more bureaucracy, and people are leaving the sector because of the increased stress, and that's even with the mitigations and the easements that's currently in place. TSS was set up by the government to help hauliers move product from GB to Northern Ireland. The government has also set up the Movement Assistance Scheme, and it's sponsored by the government, and they're looking at a digital assistance scheme. All those schemes are supported by government currently, and the cost of that isn't being borne by the sector. Whenever the government walks away from those schemes, you will see considerable increase in costs for the sector to try to buy in those services.
Well, you can see from that the road hauliers are not at all happy with what's going on in Northern Ireland. They want answers from the government. They claim when they go to these meetings that they're sort of being sidelined because it looks as if they're not happy with the protocol. And really and truly, all they really want is answers to where they are going, some sort of clarity for their business and knowing where they have to put those costs, because if they don't, the costs they'll find their way to here, to consumers on the high streets.
Dougie, is that the only Christmas light in Enniskillen? Are there others?
Well, there is a Christmas tree down the bottom. Do you know what? After the last couple of years, would be happy with a candle under a bush somewhere. Let's face it, and it's great. It's great to have it.
Do you know what? They're driving through Enniskillen and going, there's Dougie Beattie, spreading joy. The Christmas season is upon us. Dougie, we'll talk to you later on. Thanks very much.
Now, it's coming up to 7:30. Now, could Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol have brought us a step closer to a reunited Ireland? Well, as the EU and the UK continue to negotiate changes to the protocol, all this week on GB News, we're looking at what it is, why it's a problem, how, crucially, it's affected people's lives across Northern Ireland.
The protocol is part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. It means Northern Ireland is part of the UK, but still in the EU single market for goods in order to avoid a hard border on the island. That means more customs checks and paperwork for some goods and animals travelling from Britain to Northern Ireland. Well, to be clear, polling since the Brexit referendum has shown no consistent majority support for reunification. However, the conversations about a potential border are happening amongst those who identify as Irish, as Paul Hawkins has been finding out.
Today is the Ulster Ladies Senior Gaelic Football Final. Armagh in orange are playing Donegal in yellow. 15 players aside, they use a football with their hands or feet to score points by either kicking it in the goal or over the posts.
What's fascinating about this game, Gaelic football, is I didn't realise just how the history of it comes from a Republican Catholic background. And actually, we're in Northern Ireland, but the flags over there, none of them would tell you that. There's the Irish national flag over there, and before the game, everyone faced it, and they sung the Irish national anthem.
Back at the time, whenever the GAA was first founded, they wanted, it was a recruitment for, I don't want to go too much into it, but it was recruitment for the Irish Republican Army more than, but that has changed. There used to be a rule where Protestant people couldn't play and members of the armed force couldn't play and members of the police couldn't play. That rule's gone now. I identify myself as Irish because I come from the island of Ireland. I have an Irish passport.
You don't count yourself as British?
No.
No. That's interesting.
No.
Yeah. Do you count yourself as Irish or Northern Irish or both? Irish. Do you like the idea of it, if it can happen in a peaceful way, of a reunited Ireland?
Yeah.
Some people are talking about a reunited Ireland. Is that a good thing?
Well, we need to have a border poll, have a referendum on it, and put it to the people. Let what the people are saying.
How soon would that happen?
Within the next 5 years, probably. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, it should do. Yeah. But Brexit has brought them conversations further. Because before Brexit, that conversation, wasn't there. So. So it's happening.
Yeah.
So the conversation needs to happen.
And Donegal are losing at half time. Are they going to come back?
No, definitely not. Armagh people, so obviously we're here supporting Armagh, so Armagh's just going to kick on here now, scoring out 3-7 in the second half, just to keep us all happy.
Yeah, great.
Well, that is just a glimpse of part of our film called Northern Ireland, The Problem with the Protocol. It's going to be released in full on YouTube on Friday, and it's all part of our week, Northern Ireland Week, which we've got Liam Halligan and Darren McCaffrey presenting their programmes from across the country as part of our ongoing coverage of the negotiations to change the protocol between the EU and the UK. So don't miss that on Friday.
Now you're watching The Great British Breakfast with Rosie and Simon. The refugee crisis throughout Western Europe and across the English Channel has been dominating the news cycle for several years. But what are our attitudes towards those who claim asylum and why?
A new survey has found that 4 in 10 people think the government could be doing more to support refugees, while 59% of people say displaced people should be given the chance to learn new skills. The research was conducted by Techfugees, an organisation working to use technology to support displaced people.
Well, let's talk more in depth about this. The research, and Mike Butcher is co-founder and chairman of Techfugees Foundation. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
And it's fair to say what we're focusing on here are those genuine asylum seekers who, for whatever reason, are legitimately trying to start a new life in this country, and it's about the help that they should receive.
Well, actually, the Home Office's own data shows that 98% of asylum seekers crossing the Channel are fleeing persecution, and 98% of those who enter the UK via these irregular means go on to apply through the correct channels to remain in the UK as refugees. So our government's own data shows that these people are fleeing persecution. They've also shown that they are not interested in benefits in the UK. They're here to build a life, to contribute to society, and to create jobs or to work in the UK. 4 in 10 of Britons think the UK government should do more to support refugees, and almost 60% welcome the opportunity for refugees to learn new skills. So that's our survey of over 2,000 people in the UK.
Do we have the right infrastructure in the UK so that when people do arrive, they are given the right support so they can ultimately thrive and become a person who's really contributing to society?
Well, that's a good question. I think that Britain is a very developed country. It's 5th or 6th in the world in terms of its economy. It's a very wealthy country. France and Germany have taken far more refugees than we have. Germany famously took in 1 million refugees and didn't seem to take a hit to its economy. It's doing perfectly well. It's an advanced nation. We're an advanced nation. I don't really see any reason why this couldn't work. I think the other thing is that during the pandemic, we also learnt how to work remotely. We learnt how to upskill remotely, and we learnt how to learn online. And I don't think there's any particular reason why you can't allow people to learn online, learn new skills, and you can train someone to be a cybersecurity specialist inside about 3 months. You can train somebody to drive an HGV inside 3 months. So I don't see particularly why this would be a problem.
Mike, the facts don't back this up. And you say everything's worked out swimmingly in Germany. It's cost Angela Merkel her job. There is a huge backlash in Germany. And this argument that 98% of the refugees coming to this country are genuine asylum seekers, I mean, I'm not sure where those figures are coming from. There is still an element of those who are economic migrants, who are seeking a better life. Now, that's a whole different ballgame. And that is where there becomes a problem of perception of these people who are making this very dangerous journey across the Channel. And until we know the facts, and frankly, we don't, because they're taking so long to process.
Well, I mean, firstly, Simon, you know as well as I do that Angela Merkel was reaching the end of her term as a politician. And the asylum and the refugee crisis that happened in 2015 may have had some effect on that, but really it was the end of her term as a politician, not particularly about the refugee issue. The second issue is that the Home Office's own data, I've just explained to you that the Home Office's data shows that 98% of asylum seekers crossing the Channel are fleeing persecution. This is our government's own data. So these are the facts. So if you choose to believe them, of course.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of things there, aren't there? whenever you see the pictures of these boats coming across the English Channel, they are predominantly young men. They do not all come from areas where their lives are at risk. And then you've got the added issue of what on earth are they doing? They get to France. They've already crossed into the EU. They're then coming to the UK. So what is their motivation from leaving? What is a safe country to come to the UK? I mean, the facts don't match up, certainly perceptions. Now, your argument is, well, the Home Office have issued the figures. I mean, this is such a mess. The Home Office has made such a mess of this that one wonders who to believe on this.
Yeah, obviously, I know it does seem quite confusing, and often I think that it does make quite good media stories. You know, people crossing on boats. You know, as they say in media, in journalism, you know, have you got pictures? And pictures of people in boats are a part of the story. But if you zoom out, the real picture is of really quite a small issue at all. We've actually taken less people in as refugees in the last 5 years than previously. There does seem to be a sort of a historic blip that's going on at the moment. But overall, if you zoom out, it's actually the numbers are actually down. And also the people coming in boats are, you look at them, what's going on is actually they are fleeing persecution. The majority of them are fleeing persecution.
They're coming from France,
They're from Afghanistan, from Yemen.
No, Mike, they're coming
Iraq,
from France.
And those are our government's own facts.
Mike, they're coming from France.
Yes, and?
Well, they're not being persecuted in France, are they?
No, under international law, refugees are allowed to pass through countries. This is international law. They are also being persecuted in France. I do have information that suggests that they are being broken up. They're not being processed. They're not being treated in a humane manner often. Their tents are being ripped up. And actually, in fact, there are people in northern France who are actually going on hunger strike in support of refugees in France. That is going on. It's not widely reported in this country, but that is happening. And I think that so I think we need to, level out here and start look at the real issue. I think to some extent, this crisis has been manufactured by politicians for political gain. It's really not a crisis at all in the scheme of things.
Mike, hundreds of people risking their lives, some dying in the English Channel. That's a crisis in my book.
That's fair comment, but these people are desperate to live and work and contribute to society. They're clearly not being welcomed in France. And I think the other thing is that post-COVID, Britain has to reconstruct itself. There are so many jobs still open and available. We are able to reskill our society. We're trying to level up our society. We're trying to get as many people to come and work in the UK as possible. We need HGV drivers, we need cybersecurity specialists, we need nurses, we need doctors. And I think that you've also got to remember that one of the findings of our research is that also that many of these people have skills, have fantastic skills that could contribute to British society. And I think we're just leaving these people on the table. And here they are, ready to work, and British people want them to work. 4 in 10 of Britons think the UK government should do more to support refugees, according to our research, and almost 60% welcome the opportunity for refugees to learn new skills here in this country. The British people want it. The British people are not particularly on side, if you survey them, with much of the conversation in the wider public domain.
Well, I don't need to survey them. We're getting emails already about this. I mean, you have a view. You've expressed it, and we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for doing that. GB Views at gbnews.uk. It's the story that I know everybody has a very strong view on, and you're expressing it. We'll read some of those out later in the programme once we've sorted the ones that we can read out.
More on that to come, but also litter picking, something very different. Could make you a fortune in a new climate-conscious lottery. We'll explain more next.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show, Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Good morning. It is 7:45. This is the Great British Breakfast. And warnings, we could be facing an Arctic plunge from today as a 10-day chill is anticipated to sweep through the country. Snow is forecast up and down the UK. Temperatures could reach -7 degrees. The Met Office tweeted that several shots of Arctic air on the way to the UK later this week. So it's not going to be a warm one.
Well, this comes after last week when you had the Met Office issuing one forecast saying... Now, what was the Met Office was saying that it wasn't going to be snowing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had another forecaster saying it would be.
Yes.
John Hammond we spoke to last week, who was sitting on the fence.
Yes.
But very, very
Wisely,
skillfully. And we're hoping to speak to John a little later about this. But he pays your money, takes your choice. But it does seem now that there is consensus that we are heading for a big chill with those Arctic winds and winds forecast of up to 80 miles an hour.
But -7 is that's pretty awful. And for 10 days...
Says our meteorologist. -7, it's pretty awful.
I'm not making any predictions. And we were trying to ask John last week about at what point you can actually make a proper prediction. And
he sort of said
frame was
a
quite
couple of hours.
There's not very much we can do about that. So
Okay.
we'll be talking to John if we can very shortly.
That's half prediction. Coming up, litter picking, which could make you a fortune. We'll explain what that's all about in just a moment.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, good morning. Some frost and fog about this morning, especially across southern parts of the UK. Otherwise, a lot of cloud cover. And an area of rain is moving south. Now, that rain associated with this cold front will bring about a change in the weather as it pushes south across the UK, but it spends most of the day moving its way south. So some early rain for parts of central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland as well. That rain then moves eventually into northern England and North Wales by the end of the morning. Brighter skies follow for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunny spells, but a cold wind from the north will bring rattle of showers across northern and western Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and it's cold enough for these to be falling as snow over the Scottish higher ground. After any mist and fog clears in the south, a lot of cloud cover, I think, for many through the rest of the day. This weather front essentially divides things north to south, with the cloudier skies in the south being eventually cleared away by the spell of rain. The rain on and off, I think, as it pushes south. Nothing particularly heavy or persistent as it moves into southern parts of the UK during the evening and the early hours of tomorrow. And for most, with the clearing skies behind the weather front, well, it'll be a chilly start to Thursday, a touch of frost in places. Enough of a breeze around coasts and across the far north to prevent a widespread frost. Further showers coming in here as well. But actually, once this cloud gets out of the way, for many it's a blue skies day. It's plenty of crisp late autumn sunshine. A bit more cloud coming into central and eastern parts of the UK by the afternoon. But for many it's looking dry. Around coasts there will still be further showers, especially in the north and down through West Wales into Cornwall. Then the weather turns much more unsettled through Friday and into the weekend. There'll be very strong winds, a yellow warning in force for Friday and Saturday for many parts, and it will turn colder as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back.
Now, we told you there are warnings that we could be facing an Arctic plunge.
We told you.
A 10-day chill apparently going to sweep through the country. Snow is forecast. We could be seeing temperatures of -7 degrees. Let's find out if there's sort of how much of this we should be taking seriously.
Because the man who knows is John Hammond, meteorologist, presenter, all-round good egg. There he is. John, good morning to you.
-7.
I knew it. Here we go. Right. So, well, let's take each thing. Snow, first of all. Yes or no?
Maybe.
Oh.
10-day chill?
Let's start off. I'll tell you what, Simon. Let's start off with what we do know. Okay. What we do know is that it's going to turn a lot colder over the next 2 or 3 days. Certainly the coldest weather we've seen so far this autumn, and the peak of the chill will be Saturday, Sunday, where widely across the UK temperatures will be not far above freezing. We know that. We know that it's going to turn very windy as well. There could be some destructive winds actually across those areas, particularly the west coast and the east coast. And again, that's most likely Friday into Saturday. Now, the $64,000 question, of course, is snowfall. Now, as always, it's marginal because the temperatures aren't going to be so low that anything that falls out of the sky will most definitely be snow. It's not like that. It's going to be a combination of rain and snow. And what's actually going to happen is we're going to see a low pressure system move right the way down across the country Friday night. Now that will carry some heavy rain. What actually happens sometimes, if it's raining hard enough, that actually acts to cool the atmosphere. So what's going to happen is that rain is going to turn progressively to snow, and that snow could well reach the ground, and not just across the usual suspects of the Highlands of Scotland or the Pennines, which, by the way, are going to see quite a lot of snowfall, I think, Friday into Saturday here, 4 centimetres. But there's every chance for a time on, well, the early hours of Saturday into Saturday morning, that even across southern parts of England, some of that rain could turn to snow. Now, we're not talking about the blizzard of the century here, folks, and blink and you miss it, but briefly on Saturday, some places, even across southern England, could get a covering of snow. Now, you're going to say exactly where. You're going to ask me exactly where, and I can't tell you exactly where. Multiple days off, and the computer models are all over the place. So there's every chance to be some snow, but exactly where, I cannot tell you hand on heart. But even across southern parts of England, there could be a covering of snow on Saturday.
Are you sitting on a fence right now?
Yes, it's quite painful, but that's what the job sign. I know you want answers, but it is still 3 days off. 3 and a bit days off, actually. So I can't tell you. Now, we'll have a better idea if you check in with me again, let's say tomorrow morning. I'll have a better idea. But at the moment, as I say, the computer models are all over the place. Each run of the model is coming up with a snow in a different part of the country. It's one of those knife-edge ones. But as I say, what we are confident about is going to turn very cold indeed, a really quite severe wind chill. So we're talking about temperatures of 2 or 3 degrees by day in some places on the weekend, with a 50-mile-an-hour wind. Now that is cold, folks, and it's a whole lot colder than it's been all the way through the autumn.
But John,
the next question you're probably going to ask me is how long it's going to last, and does it mean a white Christmas? Well, it's not going to last all that long. It's going to last a few days, but there are signs that it's going to turn milder next week. Christmas, ain't got a clue yet.
Well, all right, you've got a list of our questions clearly, and you've just gone through the lot of them. But I've got all the papers here, and it says -7 degrees. It says 80-mile-an-hour winds. It says all hell's about to break loose.
Well, as you know, as you're a journalist, Simon, you know, you can cherry pick these numbers and build it into a story. So the -7 might happen up over the high ground of Scotland. 80-mile-an-hour wind could happen around some exposed coasts. But for most of us are not going to see -7, and most of us are not going to see 80-mile-an-hour wind. But I don't want to belittle what actually is going to be quite a severe spell, actually, given what we've had. We've had a remarkably benign autumn. You know, temperatures have been way above what they should be through this autumn. It's been quite dry. The winds have been fairly light. It's all going to change, folks, over the next few days. So I don't want to sort of downplay how severe this spell is going to be, brief though it probably will be. Come the weekend, it's going to feel quite bitterly cold, I think, in some places. And every chance, I don't want to rule out snow anywhere just yet, every chance that some of us, even across southern England, could see some of the white stuff, but it probably won't last all that long. By the middle of next week, turning milder again, and all bets are still off for December. That includes Christmas.
Okay, well, we're going to have to do it again, aren't we?
Disappointed, Simon.
John, it's always good to see you, and good to just put some clear figures on.
Well, in summary, wrap up warm.
Thank you, John.
Yes, wrap up. Always good advice, Rosie. Yes, always good advice. Now, there could be some snow. There could be some snow at the weekend, and even across southern England, some of us will be waking up to winter wonderland.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you soon.
We're going to have some more predictions later on in the week. Now, let's talk about litter picking. Litter picking locals could be in with the chance of winning £10,000 for binning a single piece of rubbish. Litter Lotto. It's a free new mobile app that rewards people for helping to dispose litter across the country, and all users have to do is send a picture of the rubbish as they bin it. They're hoping the scheme will combat the amount of litter spread across the country.
Simon Jacobs is CMO at Litter Lotto, joins us now alongside the UK's first winner of Litter Lotto, Louise Sunderland. I mean, Louise, first of all, how did you win? What did you do?
I just picked up rubbish in my local area and took pictures on using the app, binning it as I was doing it.
How do they check that it wasn't, your litter?
It can be your own litter as well, because obviously you've still got to bin that, but you can also help the community by picking up other people's rubbish that's around on the floor too.
So putting your rubbish in the bin could see you a bit of a tidy sum. Simon, they call you Lord of the Litter. Why?
When I was 16, I bought a lordship, and I thought that I would use this as a nice onomatopoeia, a way to, a nice title, bit of fun to get the word out.
So you really are. Louise, what did you win?
I won 5,000, the first jackpot to hit the UK.
5,000?
Yeah, just for binning rubbish.
Well, no wonder you're smiling. My word.
Do you almost feel a bit guilty about that?
I'm not. I don't really know how to answer that.
No, I'm
delighted.
But Simon, how does this work? I mean, where does the money come from that pays Louise and puts that smile on her face?
So we are funded and are partnered with the biggest brands that tend to be the hard hitters on the street. So the companies that you tend to see. And in the UK, our exclusive partner is McDonald's. So whilst it's not their fault that the litter happens, they have taken responsibility, which is amazing. And so they fund the prizes and they help us keep going.
So Simon, tell us then the details. It's really simple. How do we take part?
It's incredibly simple. So all you have to do is download the Litter Lotto app, where you can find on Google Play Store or the App Store. You put in some details, such as your name and your email. Then there's a camera function on the app. You open that up as and when you have litter, so either your own litter or, as Louise said, someone else's litter when you're walking down the street. You click to take the picture of your hand holding the litter above the bin, click submit, and then on the spot you get told whether you've won an instant win prize of between £5 and £250. And every entry you do goes towards the monthly jackpot of £10,000.
I mean, it sounds wonderful, but is it a bit sad that there's got to be sort of financial incentives to get people to just put their rubbish in the bin?
No. Oh, sorry, you're asking him.
Yes.
We don't necessarily look at it as sad. We see that this is an opportunity to change behaviour. If we can clear the streets, we can clear the planet, the rivers, etc., then, why not do it? And it's been shown that rewards are always much more powerful than punishment. So we're looking forward to seeing all of our streets clear. We say, get the litter while it's still hot, because it's not going to exist in a few months when people hear about Litter Lotto.
Well, I think it's brilliant. Simon, thank you so much for explaining how that works. Louise, congratulations. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Gosh, if you could make money out of rubbish, I'd be a millionaire. I do every morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. You're going to be downloading.
I will.
Litter Lotto. There we go. Money from literally your trash.
Back in a moment. I'm looking for rubbish now. We're going to start taking pictures, see if we can make some money before we go home. Might be seen through. Anyway, good morning. Hello, it's 8 o'clock on Wednesday, the 24th of November. These are the stories that matter to you and to us here on the Great British Breakfast with Simon McCoy and Rosie Wright.
Now, killing a police officer or an emergency worker will soon mean a mandatory life sentence after the government finally backed Harper's law. Why did it take so long? You can get in touch with us, gbviews@gbnews.uk.
A damning report finds just 5% of Windrush victims have received compensation 4 years after the scandal broke. 23 of them have died before getting a settlement. Now MPs call for the Home Office to be stripped of its responsibility for the scheme.
People in Northern Ireland are being urged by Stormont ministers to work from home where possible in a bid to try to curb the spread of coronavirus. Is this just the beginning?
An MP says it has to be possible for politics and parenting to mix after being told she can't sit in the Commons with her 3-month-old son. Do you agree? Should parents be allowed to take their children to work?
Well, good morning and welcome back to the programme. Let's start by giving you an overview of what's making the front pages today. And the Metro, it says, killed after a parking row. A couple were found stabbed to death in their home while their 5- and 6-year-old son slept upstairs after an alleged dispute over parking in their village. 2 men have been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Stephen and Jenny Chappell.
The Telegraph reports that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine may offer longer-lasting protection than rivals and could be the reason the UK has not seen the same level of hospitalisations as Europe, which initially discredited and restricted the jab. AstraZeneca are said to be prepping to release data showing the vaccine offers long-term T-cell immunity for older people after antibodies wane.
There is trouble at the top, at least according to the Eye. Number 10 has insisted the Prime Minister is not unwell, despite an alleged undercurrent of mistrust currently surrounding Boris Johnson, so says the paper. MPs have told the publication his team can show a, quote, last-minute.com approach to everything.
The Independent leads with calls from scientific advisers for Boris to act on high COVID cases. The paper reports that leading experts have warned that ministers have lost the message on the same day the devolved nations like Northern Ireland reintroduced COVID measures. Also on the front page, the Pope's tribute to the murdered MP Sir David Amess during a Westminster Cathedral service yesterday.
Now, according to The Guardian, the Treasury are also unhappy with the Prime Minister. They report that figures inside Rishi Sunak's department are calling for a political shake-up at Downing Street after a series of botched announcements, which include the integrated rail plan. Also on the front page, 4 years after the Windrush scandal emerged, just 5% of victims have received compensation.
William and Kate have reportedly banned the BBC from screening their Christmas Carol concert amid fury over the Princes and the Press documentary. The Westminster Abbey event is now set to be shown on ITV. That's according to the Sun newspaper. A source has warned things are likely to get a lot worse between the royals and the BBC before they get better.
Now let's return to our top story. A campaign to give mandatory life sentences to the killers of emergency service workers has been backed by the government after what the Justice Secretary Dominic Raab calls a remarkable 2 years of campaigning by the widow of Police Constable Andrew Harper.
Well, PC Harper was just 28 when he was dragged to his death by a getaway car in August 2019. 3 teenagers were jailed for manslaughter. Well, Lissy Harper married PC Harper just 4 weeks before he was killed, and she's since campaigned to introduce mandatory life sentences for those who kill on-duty emergency workers while committing a crime. Lissy says Harper's law will provide extra protection to emergency service workers and that her late husband would be proud to see it finally passed.
Well, to discuss this story and other headlines of the day is David Wooding, political editor of The Sun on Sunday. David, for her and her family, this is a real victory. She will be frustrated, though, that people are saying this happened quite quickly, 2 years, but it didn't happen before.
Yes, I always find it quite astonishing, Rosie, that you see signs in hospitals saying anybody who assaults or is abusive towards a member of staff will feel the full force of the law. I mean, we shouldn't have to say that to our public servants, such as police officers, firemen and women, and medical workers. But it's a fact of life, and this might change that. The case, as we remember 2 years ago in Berkshire, was quite a graphic one. But the 3 feral thugs got away with 16 and 13 years, if my memory serves me correctly, and they'll probably be out of prison after half of that. If you realise that when you're committing a crime, that in the commission of that crime, if you kill a member of the medical or police or firefighters or any public servant in the course of that crime, you'll face automatic life sentence. Then you may think twice about what you're doing. This was a horrific crime in itself. And I must also say it's a credit to Lissy Harper, who has channeled her grief and anger over this tragic case into a cause which will be widely applauded by a large number of people, I would suspect.
Yeah, it's a shame it wasn't in place before those 3 went on trial and smirked their way in the dock.
Yes, of course. They were seen laughing when they were told they weren't being jailed for life. But of course, she can take some comfort in knowing that her husband's death was not completely in vain, and that the law has been changed as a result of that, and that will give her some sense of closure on her campaign.
Let's move on, because a report by the Home Affairs Committee has found that the vast majority of people from the Windrush generation who applied for compensation, well, only 5% have got it. Some of them have died during this process. What on earth is going on at the Home Office?
Yes, well, of course, we've already got the migration crisis with record numbers of migrants arriving illegally across the Channel in boats, which is putting a lot of pressure on the Home Secretary, Priti Patel. And her department has been described endlessly as not fit for purpose. And now we have this House of Commons Home Affairs Select Committee report which shows that in the 4 years since the Windrush scandal was first exposed, only, I think my maths is right, Simon, it's 750 out of 15,000 people affected by this scandal have had compensation, which is absolutely appalling. I mean, some of these people, remember, they were refused healthcare, housing, the right to work, and so forth. And some were even accused of being illegal immigrants, even though they'd arrived under the Windrush scheme. Absolutely appalling. It's been described by the committee as a litany of flaws in the compensation scheme. So let's hope that this puts the appropriate rocket under the backside of the Home Office officials who are clearly dragging their feet on this, or not got enough staff or energy into the putting right to the wrongs of the Windrush generation.
Let's stick with the government for a moment. How do you think Boris Johnson's week is really faring? It had an extremely shaky start with that address that he made on Monday, and apparently some letters of no confidence have already been submitted. Is this going to shake the Prime Minister?
Well, there's always a backbench MP, as somebody who's worked in the lobby for quite some years, there's always a backbench MP or two who'll tell you they're sharpening their quill, ready to put in a letter of no confidence. We had it during Theresa May's days. We've even had it during David Cameron's days, when we had a lot more stable times because there wasn't Brexit or a COVID pandemic. And it's clear that the Prime Minister has got a bit of a divided party. I mean, there are the old guard who feel they've had their noses put out of joint by the demands to stop having a second job, which many of them have had for some years. And then you've got the new Red Wall MPs who've come in, who feel that they're not getting a fair enough crack of the government cake for their constituents. But of course, you need something like 54 MPs to sign, to put in letters, and I don't think we'll be anywhere near that. I mean, one, two or three may have said they put in letters, but I doubt whether we'll get anywhere near the 54. So I don't think he needs to worry about that. The biggest concern will be that people are going public with it and moaning to the media about the state of the leadership at the moment.
Well, yeah, I wanted to pick up on that because you prowl these corridors of power. You know what goes on, and there is quite a hunt now for that chatty rat, isn't there?
The chatty pig, as he's being called, because somebody in Downing Street, a Downing Street source, allegedly spoke to the BBC and said that people were not happy with the Prime Minister's performance at the moment. Now, that's quite treacherous if you work inside the number 10 team. And don't forget, of course, if things are not going well for the Prime Minister, he does have a big team around him, and they're all to blame in that sense. For instance, in that embarrassing moment with the Peppa Pig speech when he was shuffling the paper and squirming for about 30 seconds, was that his fault, or did an official who'd given it to him at the last minute have them in the wrong order? So everyone's to blame, and it's a team game in that sense. So there's a feeling in number 10 that somebody's out of order. There is a bit of a hunt on for the chatty pig, as he or she has been dubbed, but I doubt they'll ever find them because they never do.
Let's look at the government's handling of the pandemic and our sort of phased idea of staying in Plan A and being hesitant to go and step towards Plan B. The AstraZeneca CEO has made some interesting comments suggesting sort of that the rollout of the AstraZeneca jab in the UK could be why we're not seeing the sort of, hospitalisation level they are seeing in Europe. Do you think that there might be credibility in that? And actually, looking at how other European cities are really struggling with sort of public uprising to restrictions, do you think maybe actually we're doing an OK job here?
Yes, I mean, we've got something like 7 countries in Europe where there are there's lots of trouble, demonstrations, riots in some cases, tear gas has been used in Brussels. Now, a lot of this is probably, if this report is correct, this is based on some comments made by Pascal Soiré, the chief executive of AstraZeneca. He says that it gives more T cells in elder patients, which obviously explains why we're doing quite well here. And while the rest of Europe burns, so to speak, Britain is not facing further lockdown restrictions, and for once the the economists and the medics seem to be agreed that there's no disagreement over whether we should lock down or open up, and we seem to be cruising towards Christmas okay, fingers crossed. So yes, it would probably be Europe's own fault for sneering at AstraZeneca as it was seen over here, by saying there were problems with it, and one minute trying to block it, the next minute saying it wasn't efficacious, the efficacy wasn't good enough, and so maybe they're reaping what they've sown for that. What was seen as a Brexit-fueled resistance to using AstraZeneca.
The sneerer in chief being one Emmanuel Macron.
Yes, and there's a lot of problems in France as well. The infection rates are rising. I know they're rising everywhere, but we seem to have fewer hospitalizations in this country. So yes, fingers crossed it's something that's going well, and long may it continue.
Oh, indeed. David, really good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, everybody in there from The Sun.
It's 13 minutes past 8. Let's give you an overview of what else is happening today. And a post-mortem has confirmed a mother of two killed in Somerset died of multiple stab wounds. Jennifer Chappell and her husband Stephen were both found with serious injuries at their home on Sunday, while their two children were asleep. The adults died at the scene. Nearby residents told PA News the couple had previously been involved in rows about parking with a neighbour. Two men have been arrested in connection with the incident.
And police have arrested two men on suspicion of murder after a body was found in the hunt for a missing teenager in Plymouth. Bobby Ann McLeod disappeared on Saturday. The alarm was raised after the 18-year-old failed to meet friends on a night out in the city. Devon and Cornwall police say a 24 and 26-year-old are in custody.
Around 2 million universal credit claimants could be £1,000 a year better off under new rules that came into force today to ensure more people can benefit before Christmas. Workers will now take home 8 pence more of any extra pound earned, owing to a so-called shift in the taper rate. But the Resolution Foundation think tank calculated 3.6 million families will remain worse off because the alterations fail to offset the loss of the £20 a week uplift in universal credit you'll remember was provided in the pandemic.
An MP says it has to be possible for politics and parenting to mix after being told she can't sit in the Commons with her 3-month-old son. Labour's Stella Creasy was informed it was now against the rules to bring a child to a debate at Westminster Hall after doing so yesterday. She said the change was news to me after attending debates with a baby in the past and called for a review. The House of Commons said it was in communication with Ms Creasy.
A rare manuscript by Albert Einstein has sold at auction for nearly £10 million. But it dates back to 1913. Its value was originally estimated at between £1.5 to £2.5 million. It's one of only 2 known documents showing his approach to the famous theory of relativity. The handwritten script also reveals that Einstein occasionally even made mistakes.
Speaking of which, Manchester United, managerless, they've put their place in the knockout stage of the Champions League with a 2-0 win at Villarreal. Goals from Cristiano Ronaldo and Jadon Sancho gave caretaker boss Michael Carrick a win 2 days after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked. The victory put United through to the knockout stage with a game to spare.
Holders Chelsea confirmed their qualification for the last 16 with an impressive 4-0 win over Juventus in Group H at Stamford Bridge. But the Blues lost N'Golo Kante to a knee injury in the first half, while Ben Chilwell was also forced off with a knee problem following a come-together with Adrien Rabiot in the second.
The weather today, rain's going to sink southeastwards across northern areas, clearing to sunny spells and showers, these wintry over high ground. It'll be drier further south with patchy cloud and the odd shower.
Now, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon announced the country's vaccine passport system will not be extended to more venues. The scheme is currently in place for nightclubs and large events, and she'd previously considered expanding the use of vaccine passports to cinemas, theatres and other hospitality venues.
Well, instead, people will be allowed to present a negative COVID test rather than the proof of 2 jabs to enter these large venues from December the 6th, with smaller hospitality venues exempt.
To discuss whether this provides any relief to Scotland's pubs is Steve Latto, owner of the Criterion pub in St Andrews. Steve, is this what you wanted?
Absolutely, yes. I think it's a bit of sense coming from the Scottish Government at the moment. We need to cut down on transmission rates, not force people to take on passports that doesn't stop the transmission.
Are you getting a bit frustrated that it's the lack of clarity that I think some people are finding so difficult? That Nicola Sturgeon 1 minute says we may do something, then she says, oh, well, it's all right, we won't do that. I mean, yes, it brings relief, but there's always that air of uncertainty about all this.
Yeah, I think she's been pretty clear and left it hanging over us that it could come back in. It's certainly not off the table from what I gathered from yesterday's discussions that they said we welcome the fact that she's not brought it in just now, but she did say that it could come in again at another time. And I think if you look at this time last year, she closed us down pretty much completely because we couldn't sell alcohol. So, you know, that came very quickly, and I think we're always expecting the worst to happen. So it's a challenging time at the moment, and I think a lot of people are expecting the passports to come in at some point, unfortunately.
Because that uncertainty exists not just for you, but for your customers. And people have sort of been joking this week around this phrase, HOGO, the hassle of going out. Actually, there is so much more admin now associated with going to the pub and having a pint.
Yeah, there's a huge barrier to entry now. The sign above our door says meeting house since 1874. This is a place where people from all walks of life come in and meet other people, socialise. It's good for their mental health. We have a number of elderly people that just don't have the facility to have this COVID passport on their phone. We've also, the COVID passport also isn't recognising thousands of people at the moment. If you've got a vaccination in England and then get your second one in Scotland, you can't marry them together. There's a number of issues with the vaccine passport at the moment, and had they brought that in, then it would have been a complete disaster for hospitality and wherever else they were going to bring in. I know the cinema businesses were against it also. And what we've got to look at is how we cut down on transmission and putting the responsibility on everybody. If they are going out to socialise, then an LFT before you go out is the best way to do it. And then we know that we've got less of a chance of transmitting the disease on.
Have you heard of that term HOGO before?
No, that's the first time I've heard of it.
Oh, God, thank you. I thought I was the only one, because I just looked at Rosie and said, HOGO? Hassle of going out?
Yeah, it's been on the front page of some of the papers this week, Simon.
Oh, OK. Well, that's you and me told, Steve. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Great to see you. Thanks, Steve Lotto.
It's like FOMO, the fear of
missing out. That's I've heard of. I've not heard of HOGO.
Instead of sitting on our sofas thinking, oh, what are all my friends doing, or what balls are they going to, or Christmas parties, maybe I should get out and going about, people are thinking, oh, my goodness, I can't be bothered with this whole, do I have my pass? Do I have, even if you go to the theatre or you go to some places, you've got to make sure you've got your proof of 2 jabs before you can go in.
Okay,
so people are saying,
okay.
too much hassle.
I've got FOWR. It's a fear of working with Rosie. Coming up, Northern Ireland is urging people to work from home where they can. We're going to be speaking to our Northern Ireland reporter to tell us more about why Stormont is looking to strengthen its plan. That's after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, good morning. Some frost and fog about this morning, especially across southern parts of the UK. Otherwise, a lot of cloud cover, and an area of rain is moving south. Now, that rain associated with this cold front will bring about a change in the weather as it pushes south across the UK, but it spends most of the day moving its way south, so some early rain for parts of central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland as well. That rain then moves eventually into northern England and North Wales by the end of the morning. Brighter skies follow for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Some sunny spells, but a cold wind from the north will bring rattle of showers across northern and western Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and it's cold enough for these to be falling as snow over the Scottish higher ground. After any mist and fog clears in the south, a lot of cloud cover, I think, for many through the rest of the day. This weather front essentially divides things north to south, with the cloudier skies in the south being eventually cleared away by the spell of rain. The rain on and off, I think, as it pushes south. Nothing particularly heavy or persistent as it moves into southern parts of the UK during the evening and the early hours of tomorrow. And for most, with the clearing skies behind the weather front, well, it'll be a chilly start to Thursday, a touch of frost in places. Enough of a breeze around coasts and across the far north to prevent a widespread frost. Further showers coming in here as well. But actually, once this cloud gets out of the way, for many it's a blue skies day. It's plenty of crisp late autumn sunshine. A bit more cloud coming into central and eastern parts of the UK by the afternoon. But for many it's looking dry. Around coast there will still be further showers, especially in the north and down through West Wales into Cornwall. Then the weather turns much more unsettled through Friday and into the weekend. There'll be very strong winds, a yellow warning in force for Friday and Saturday for many parts, and it will turn colder as well.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back to the programme, 25 minutes past 8 today on the Great British Breakfast with Simon and myself, Rosie.
People in Northern Ireland are being urged by Stormont ministers to work from home where possible in a bid to curb the spread of coronavirus in the province. Well, this message is to be strengthened in the coming days, apparently, following an executive meeting about how to tackle rising infections. Northern Ireland's rate has been climbing over the past week or so to become the highest across the UK and Ireland.
Let's find out more. Dougie Beattie is our Northern Ireland reporter who joins us live now. Dougie, just explain how bad then are the infection levels that's making Stormont a bit nervous?
Well, they are climbing. They're climbing quite quickly here, although the rate of deaths aren't going up in the same way. That probably is to do more with the vaccination that was very, very successfully rolled out here last year. But they are trying to get in front of it, and they're trying to anticipate what's going to happen next. Now, they don't have the same financial tools that they did have in place back at the start. There's no furlough, no bounce-back loans, no high street grants to keep everybody happy. So they have reverted to preset. They're asking those that worked from home in the first lockdown to do the same again. They're appealing to their employers to work with them. They are re-rolling out the message of hand sanitisation, wearing masks and keeping our distance. But that's causing problems, I suppose, all through it and through the economy. And they're not the only ones that are seeing problems with legislation in the economy. Yesterday, the Road Hauliers Association appeared at Stormont. They are speaking to MLAs there on the legislation that is costing them quite substantial amounts of money due to the protocol. And they feel that they are not being heard, and they fear that those costs may come on to the high street in Northern Ireland.
What we're trying to get across to the MLAs is the take on the current difficulties with the trading between GB and Northern Ireland. We're trying to explain to them the difficulties that we're experiencing and what's coming down the tracks. We see more bureaucracy, more cost, more lost time and greater stress on people that work within the sector. Well, what it was originally, there was free and unfettered trade between GB and Northern Ireland. GB is our biggest marketplace. Now with the trading restrictions through the protocol, that has slowed the logistics chain down. It's costing more money, there's more bureaucracy, and people are leaving the sector because of the increased stress. And that's even with the mitigations and the easements that's currently in place. TSS was set up by the government to help hauliers move product from GB to Northern Ireland. The government has also set up the Movement Assistance Scheme, and it's sponsored by the government, and they're looking at a digital assistance scheme. All those schemes are supported by government currently, and the cost of that isn't being borne by the sector. Whenever the government walks away from those schemes, you will see considerable increase in costs for the sector to try to buy in those services.
Well, you can see from that the Road Hauliers Association are quite upset by the whole process of not being heard. Now, they are looking for less bureaucracy and more clarity. That can be said not only for the road hauliers, but over COVID messages as well throughout the UK.
Doogie, thank you. What on earth is that swan about?
Well, you were looking for Christmas tree lights. This is a swan on the other side. This is the passage between Upper and Lower Lough Erne, and Enniskillen Castle sits to my right-hand side, and I found you a swan that's all lovely and lit up to look Christmassy.
That's great, but it's daylight now, Doogie. but thank you. Thank you for trying to cheer us up this morning. The castle looks fantastic. Great to see you, and I know you'll be talking to us again later on. Thanks, Doogie Beattie there.
Being rude about decorations, about your co-presenter. Anything else you've got to pick a bone with this morning?
We're okay at the moment.
Yet.
Well, there's still half an hour to go.
Well, let's stick with Northern Ireland for a little bit, because Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol have brought us... The question is, could they have brought us closer to a reunited Ireland? And as the EU and the UK continue to negotiate changes to the protocol, well, all this week on GB News, we're looking at what it is, why it's a problem, but most importantly, how it's affected people's lives across Northern Ireland.
Well, the protocol is part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. It means Northern Ireland is part of the UK, but still in the EU's single market for goods, in order to avoid a hard border on the island. Well, that means more customs checks and paperwork for some goods and animals travelling from Britain to Northern Ireland. To be clear, polling since the Brexit referendum has shown no consistent majority support for reunification. However, the conversations about a potential border are happening amongst those who identify as Irish, as Paul Hawkins has been finding out.
Today is the Ulster Ladies Senior Gaelic Football Final. Armagh in orange are playing Donegal in yellow. 15 players aside, they use a football with their hands or feet to score points by either kicking it in the goal or over the posts.
What's fascinating about this game, Gaelic football, is I didn't realise just how the history of it comes from a Republican Catholic background. And actually, we're in Northern Ireland, but the flags over there, none of them would tell you that. There's the Irish national flag over there, and before the game, everyone faced it, and they sung the Irish national anthem.
Back at the time, whenever the GAA was first founded, they wanted, it was a recruitment for, I don't want to go too much into it, but it was recruitment for the Irish Republican Army more than, but that has changed. There used to be a rule where Protestant people couldn't play and members of the armed force couldn't play and members of the police couldn't play. That rule's gone now. I identify myself as Irish because I come from the island of Ireland. I have an Irish passport.
You don't count yourself as British?
No.
No. That's interesting.
No.
Do you count yourself as Irish or Northern Irish or both? Irish. Do you like the idea of it, if it can happen in a peaceful way, of a reunited Ireland?
Yeah.
Some people are talking about a reunited Ireland. Is that a good thing?
Well, we need to have a border poll, have a referendum on it, and put it to the people. Let what the people are saying.
How soon would that happen?
Within the next 5 years, probably. Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, it should do. Yeah. But Brexit has brought them conversations further. Because before Brexit, that conversation, wasn't there. So. So it's happening.
Yeah.
So the conversation needs to happen.
And Donegal are losing at half time. Are they going to come back?
No, definitely not. Armagh people, so obviously we're here supporting Armagh, so Armagh's just going to kick on here now, and scoring out 3-7 in the second half, just to keep us all happy.
Yeah, great.
Well, that's just a small part of our film called Northern Ireland, The Problem with the Protocol. It's going to be released in full on YouTube on Friday. It's all part of Northern Ireland Week here on GB News. We've got Liam Halligan and Darren McCaffrey presenting their programmes from across the country this week. So it's all part of our ongoing coverage of the negotiations to change the protocol between the EU and the UK. So don't miss Paul's documentary coming out in full on Friday.
You're watching The Great British Breakfast. Now, COVID's legacy will cause a significant crisis of confidence in young people unless they receive more support. That's according to a report from the Prince's Trust. The report suggests people from poorer backgrounds and those who had unstable employment during the pandemic are more likely to have suffered mentally and lost confidence.
Dave Smithson is the Operations Director at Anxiety UK. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We know that the last 18 months has been particularly tough for everyone, but particularly, why do you say young people are struggling?
Well, I think we've seen from this report that it's had an impact on people's mental health as much as anything. I think the impact on our mental health during the pandemic for all of us has been quite significant, but particularly on young people who have had to deal with the isolation and the loss of their normal support network. And I think that's had a direct impact on their confidence, on their ability to feel comfortable going back out into the workplace.
How are they manifesting that? I mean, do they talk about it?
I think we're seeing young people are more confident in talking about it in some cases these days than certainly previous generations. I think this current generation are more comfortable talking about their mental well-being and seeking help and support. I think the real challenge is making sure there is sufficient support and treatment options available for them, and that the places they can go to get help are geared up, ready to take that influx of additional need.
How do you remedy a sort of crisis of confidence?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to be able to give those young people who are struggling the help and support that they need. As I say, it's a lot of it's to do with their mental well-being, their mental health, the anxiety that they feel around going back into the workplace. The anxiety, could be caused by a whole rafter of different triggers that are causing that, whether it's the fear of going back out into the workplace, whether it's the fear of going back to work or going into the workplace and a lack of confidence is because they've not had that experience, or whatever it may be that's triggering it. They need that support and that help to be able to build up their confidence, to be able to find themselves some ways and coping strategies to deal with it. And that can only happen, as I say, if the support treatment options are there and available to them. So we've got to see the investment in the services to support them first and foremost, and then give them that support, give them that confidence, give them the coping mechanisms and the training and the support that they need going back out into that workplace.
David, these are the young people that we know about, but presumably there's a huge number of people we don't know about, those who have been isolated and remain so.
Certainly, that's a huge potential. That there are many other people out there who are, as you say, they're still dealing with the pandemic or the impact of the pandemic, the impact on their own mental health and mental well-being, who aren't coming forward, who we don't know about. And I think that's always been the case particularly with mental health, because there is such a stigma associated with it. We've made huge strides in the last 5 to 10 years alone in improving how people feel about dealing with their mental health, that they feel more comfortable seeking help and support than they used to. But there is still a stigma attached and associated with mental ill health. We still, particularly men, us men, are still particularly vulnerable to mental ill health, and yet we won't talk about it. We feel embarrassed, we feel ashamed, or we worry about being judged. So, yeah, there is the potential for lots more people to be still struggling who we're not even aware of, absolutely.
OK, if you have an inkling that is one of your friends, family, maybe it's someone on your university hall's corridor, what can we do?
First and foremost, I think be there to be supportive, encourage them to get help and support if you can. They may be reticent to do so initially, but just make sure that they are aware of what help and support is available. If they choose not to engage straight away, don't put pressure on them. Try not to be judgmental. As I said a second ago, we feel worried about being judged if we open up about our mental health. So don't be judgmental, be supportive, be a listening ear, give them time, and just let them know you're there. Check in with them from time to time. If they don't get help straight away, just say, well, if you're not going to seek any help or support, professional help and support, I'm here for you if you want to talk. So just be that really good friend to them.
I'm always interested about those that say that they're worried about going back into circulation, about meeting people. Is it meeting people, or is it tending to be more specific, that there are specific people that they don't particularly want to see again, and they've built that up as a thing?
No, it's a good question, but I'm not sure we've got the depth of data to be able to analyse that in the way that you're suggesting. I think there is a lot of people who are just worried generally at this moment in time about going back out into life generally, whether it's back on public transport, whether it's back in busy shopping centres, whether it's back in busy workplaces. There is still this fear, this sort of ongoing fear of, is the pandemic still out there? We are still seeing regularly there are cases being reported. There are people still, unfortunately, very sadly, are falling ill and in some cases are still losing their life to the pandemic. So we are still seeing that there is, the virus is still out there. We're not out of the woods with this yet, and I think that is still at the back of a lot of people's minds. That's still a worry and an anxiety for them, and we are seeing levels of demand for our services at Anxiety UK has dropped a little bit from what it was at the height of the first lockdown, and it's back to more or less to normal levels of demand for our services. But we're still seeing a lot of demand there, and a lot of people are still reporting being anxious about returning to normal life.
Dave, thank you very much. That's Dave Smith, and thanks. Good to talk to you.
Lots to come on the programme. Can your dog's diet make your pet a little bit more positive?
That's not what it says. It says positive.
I asked you to say it and you said you...
I'm not reading that out. Can your pet feel more positive? I mean, it's ridiculous.
We're speaking with TV presenter and dog lover Lisa Faulkner after this.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
A very warm welcome back. It is coming up to 8:45 now. Around 2 million universal credit claimants could be £1,000 a year better off under new rules that came into force today to ensure more people can benefit before Christmas. But sadly, there's still the possibility that not every family in Britain can afford to put presents under the tree this year, with figures showing that child poverty is set to rise due to a combination of pandemic job cuts and rises in energy bills and the cost of living.
In Yorkshire, child poverty has increased, with a quarter of children now growing up in poverty in Barnsley. One local business, though, has made it a bit of a mission to make sure that no child in the town goes without a present this year. We can find out more because Anna Riley, our reporter, is there now. Anna, this sounds like a fantastic initiative.
Good morning, Rosie and Simon. Yes, such a lovely initiative that the local community are throwing themselves into. Christmas is almost a month away now. It's a time that people are really looking forward to, spending time with family with these festivities, especially with the pandemic last year putting a stop to a lot of it for people. But like you say, sadly, not every family in Britain can afford to put presents under the tree this year, with the figures showing that child poverty is only set to rise. And the charity Action for Children have said that a child considered to be growing up in poverty if they live in a household whose income is 60% below the average in a given year. Before the pandemic, 4.3 million children were living in poverty in the UK, and that was up 200,000 from the previous year. And currently, 31% of children in the UK are living in poverty. In Yorkshire, families are struggling, and here in Barnsley, though, people are also seeing the pinch of the pandemic. And I was speaking earlier about the local MP, Stephanie Peacock. She told me that a quarter of children here in Barnsley are living in poverty. But to help families in the area, one local business has launched a toy appeal to make sure no child in the town goes without a present. It's run by Tony Batty and his friend Liam Hardcastle, and I spoke to Tony, and this is what he had to say.
We started it just beginning of the end of COVID last year, November time, because everybody was like suffering. You know, there were people were on furlough, they'd no much money, and it was just an idea that we come up with to sort of try to give something back. Because 1 in 3 people was going to waking up on Christmas morning without a present, through poverty, or the parents are struggling, especially nowadays with what's going on with the food. You know, the food bills have gone through the roof, everything's gone through the roof really. So we just set a little fund up to get. It meant to be a little fund up last year, and it ended up rocketing and going to like 5,000 presents from all over in Barnes. Everybody just were amazing. They just donated everything left, right, and centre. It were fantastic. Well, people are struggling really bad, but the community spirit's absolutely amazing. I've had old ladies come in my shop. One come other week. The first presents I got were this week when she'd gone into town, got a pension money, and come back with 2 presents for me for kids. People try. You know, there's a fantastic community spirit in Barnsley. It's fantastic, especially when anything like this is happening. We all seem to pull together. It's great. You know, I mean, to waking up on Christmas Day morning without a present for some children, it must be heartbreaking. I mean, I couldn't imagine it. You know what I mean? It's horrible to see it and hear it. So if we can sort of put a smile on some children's faces and take that sadness away from a family, that's all you need. Just a smiley face.
So heartwarming there that Tony and the community are doing so much to make sure that no child goes without in the town this year. And it's hoped with those changes to universal credit as well today that for the big day, Christmas Day, people are going to have smiles on their faces.
Anna, thank you so much for the update this morning.
Oh, it's good to do that, isn't it? Put a smile on people's faces.
Well, I think
I try it every morning. It's not worked yet. Yes.
It's gone 8:45. Someone actually a morning to Claire who says, You've been extra dry this morning, Simon.
Extra dry?
Extra dry. And a little bit smiley.
Yes, well, I've had text saying I've been something else this morning. But
Yeah, we don't read those ones out.
No, let's not. Let's show you what else is going on today. The government has announced that killing a police officer or a 999 worker will be punished with a mandatory life sentence. Well, the law change marks the end of a 2-year campaign by Lissy Harper after her husband, police officer Andrew Harper, was killed in the line of duty while answering a late-night burglary call. The so-called Harper's Law is expected to make it onto the statute books via an amendment to the existing Police Crime Sentencing in Courts Bill, meaning it would likely become law early next year.
Victims of the Windrush scandal are still facing hardship 2 years on, according to a report from the Home Office Committee. Only 1 in 5 of an estimated 15,000 claimants applied to the scheme, and only a quarter of them then received compensation. The report said the Home Office compensation scheme contains many of the same bureaucratic insensitives that led to the scandal in the first place.
An MP is saying it has to be possible for politics and parenting to mix after being told she can't sit in the Commons with her 3-month-old son. Labour's Stella Creasy was informed it was now against the rules to bring a child to a debate at Westminster Hall after doing so yesterday. She said the change was news to me after attending debates with the baby in the past. She's called for a review. The House of Commons said it was in communication with Miss Creasy.
In sport, managerless Manchester United booked their place in the knockout stage of the Champions League with a 2-0 win. Goals from Cristiano Ronaldo and Jadon Sancho gave the caretaker boss, Michael Carrick, a win 2 days after their manager was sacked. The victory put United through to the knockout stage with a game to spare.
Meanwhile, holders Chelsea confirmed their qualification for the last 16 with an impressive 4-0 win over Juventus in Group H at Stamford Bridge. But the Blues lost N'Golo Kante to a knee injury in the first half, while Ben Chilwell was also forced off with a knee problem following a coming together with Adrien Rabiot in the second.
Now,
that's not very friendly, though, is it?
Friendly?
That if I make a slight error in my reading, you're going... Yeah, that really doesn't help.
I make mistakes far more than you do.
Oh,
if you didn't tease me for them, I wouldn't be able to tease you.
No, read this. And any mistake, I'll show you what you do.
Brits love their dogs, but do you know a dog's diet can help influence their happiness and their well-being? Well, actress, presenter, TV chef and the mum to Rory, the miniature Schnauzer, Lisa Faulkner was surprised to learn about how diet could potentially influence her dog's behaviour, despite being aware clearly how good food can affect your own well-being.
Oh, it's nice to see you smiling, Lisa. Good morning to you.
You're making me smile this morning.
How come this was a surprise to you that a dog's diet might affect how it behaves?
Do you know what? It wasn't a huge surprise. It was just the fact that, obviously, when you think about it, it makes sense that a healthy gut keeps a healthy mind, and we know that for humans. But I suppose I hadn't really thought about it for my dog, and it was Purina Pet Care that had brought this to my attention, which I think is amazing, is that it really does make sense that a healthy gut makes a healthy mind, and a good diet promotes a healthy gut. And so I've always fed my dog, good food, a balanced diet. But I think now, coming out of COVID and coming out of lockdown, we're sort of dealing with a lot more pets who have stress and anxiety, and so it's even more important.
We've just seen 3 dogs. I don't think any of them was Rory. Where's Rory?
No, Rory's right next to me.
Well, let's get Rory out. Come on.
Here she is.
That's better.
Lisa...
I've literally woken her up.
Hopefully she's not feeling too stressed today. Part of the problem is our pets really provided us with an awful lot of, a self-esteem boost over the last 18 months. And now we're all going out again and we're leaving them at home. So, have you noticed a difference in mood?
I'm sorry, Lisa. It's just such a great shot.
Do you know what? I have noticed that loads and loads of dogs, when I've been on walks, I've noticed so many pieces of paper, like little flyers saying, is your dog suffering from anxiety because people are back to work? Look at the dog just staring. I'm going to put her down because she looks so funny. But I know that I've really thought about the fact that Rory lived her best life in lockdown because we were just always in, walking, constantly. So now that I'm back to work, I'm always thinking, when am I back? How long am I leaving her for? And there are lots of people that say there are signs of stress to look out for, like if your dog is licking or chewing her paws or anything like that, or crying. You just got to sort of be aware that your dog's going to feel that you're suddenly not around anymore.
You don't think she's anxious because you've given her a boy's name?
She's Rory Gilmore from the Gilmore Girls. Which may mean nothing to you, but me and my daughter,
no, I do.
who's a
It does.
Billy.
She's crying in the background now. I think I've upset her. She actually helped you hugely during lockdown too. It's a two-way street, this.
She really did. I found lockdown, I think everybody, not just me, everyone found lockdown difficult. And to be able to get out and walk every day was amazing and really just kept me calm. And I've kept that up. I've always walked the dog, but it's now become that I make sure that I give myself that time to just go out walking. So she's really helped me. She's brilliant. She is my joy. My family say that I love her more than anyone else.
How does John Torode respond to that one?
Well, he was very anti getting a dog, and now he absolutely loves her.
It's about time, isn't it? If they look after our mental health, we should be looking after theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's about knowing that if we give them a good diet, then they're going to have a good gut. A good gut health promotes healthy mind. And so it's a no-brainer, really, but it's just about maybe saying, let's look at their diet and help them and not be feeding them human food all the time.
Yeah. Animals. On Twitter yesterday, someone had posted this photograph. After 2 years of being with the dog every day, they were going away for a week and leaving the dog behind. And they posted this photograph of this dog in the window, and you've never seen anything so sad in your life. I mean, that first day back or the first day away from your pet is such a wrench.
I honestly feel it. I spend the whole time thinking, do you think Rory's okay? And I don't leave her for very long, but I'm always worrying about her.
Oh, well, Lisa, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Sorry if we've been a bit funny this morning.
We and you.
Lisa, thank you.
Thank you. You've brightened up my morning.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you so much, Lisa.
She never says that.
That is not true. So, pets, and also, pets, well, they're big business right now. My sister's actually just got a tiny puppy, and they're using this very unconventional training method from a YouTuber that they've seen. And I'm going to go and visit this weekend to see.
From YouTube? What, do they sit the dog in front of the telly?
I think you watch the YouTuber and then you try to instill those techniques. I think with some success. Every time I see a video of this new puppy, though, it's got a lead on. I said, why has it got a lead on it? So they can grab it quickly if it runs away. The training's going OK, I think. Do you have any pets, Simon?
A couple of dogs, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you get them Christmas presents?
No.
No, lots of people do. Do you get them jumpers? Any accessories at all?
A jumper for a dog?
Yeah, lots of people do.
No.
No. OK, there we go. That was
Good.
very simple, straightforward.
Do let us know your views. Now, we had an interview earlier with someone talking about the migrant crisis. It's an interview that has got a lot of you hot under the collar, angry, want to hear your views. And anybody asking, why did you put him on the telly? We need to know what other people think. We need to try and put other points of view, although I don't think he necessarily answered the questions that you wanted him to answer in a clear way. But we do read your emails, so do keep those coming in. And thank you very much to all of you for getting in touch this morning. It's good to know that you're out there, frankly.
There's lots to come up here on GB News. That's pretty much it from me and Simon. The briefing with Tom Harper will be next.
See you tomorrow.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, good morning. Some frost and fog about this morning, especially across southern parts of the UK. Otherwise, a lot of cloud cover and an area of rain is moving south. Now, that rain associated with this cold front will bring about a change in the weather as it pushes south across the UK, but it spends most of the day moving its way south, so some early rain for parts of central and southern Scotland, Northern Ireland as well.